Chapter 5037. Just ask him. Do you want to see your own biological parents? The last 4 words. Second Elder Jiang said it word by word. His slightly narrowed eyes reflected a piercingly cold glint that was filled with schemes. If he wants to see his biological parents, then obediently listen to this elder's arrangements. After completing this elder's task, this elder will bring him back to the Jiang clan and grant him the identity of the Jiang clan's young master. Yes. The black-robed man replied with a fist salute. Without the dark void hall messing around, Yi Qingluo and her entourage's speed was obviously much faster. They naturally noticed the little tails following them in the dark. Yan Xiaoyi wanted to solve it. Yi Qingluo stopped her without a trace, her lips curled into a faint cold arc. Don't be anxious, let's see what this second Elder Jiang is up to. Even if they killed these little tails now, not only would it attract the attention of second Elder Jiang would definitely send other tails to follow them. Rather than searching everywhere for those tails and worrying about where they were hiding, it was better to find them. Why not keep these tails that they had long noticed? At least, they thought they were in the dark. In fact, they were the ones who were in control of the chess game in the dark. And, the most important thing was, now it seemed, the Jiang family's side seemed to have believed her and Dmo Xian's identity as morning clouds and evening rain. Yi Qingluo was trailing those little tails. Those little tails expressed their bitterness. They followed them all the way, and they had to be careful to avoid them. After all, there was a super big shot in that team. Then those tails who had received second Elder Jiang's order could not find a chance to get close to Jiang Ziyi. After leaving the abandoned temple, this group of people, no matter where they went, would always bring Jiang Ziyi along. Even if it was to hunt or something else, there would always be people around Jiang Ziyi. Just like that. The people in front left. The people behind followed. In a flash, 5 days had passed. The further they went, the more desolate the surrounding environment became. It was so desolate that not even a blade of grass grew, leaving only one after another barren mountain range. The little tails were getting more and more strenuous. There were a few times when he almost lost them. Along the way, the men in black used the signal flare specially made by the nobles of the Jiang family to communicate with second Elder Jiang. In these 5 days, second Elder Jiang had originally sent out a signal once a day. But on the 4th day, especially today, they were flare after flare. It was as if he was urging them to hurry up and finish what they were doing. The little tails finally decided, do something big. Anyway, if they were to drag on and follow Yi Qingluo's entourage, second Elder Jiang would be waiting anxiously, and they would still have to die. Why not take action now and snatch him away? At least he could complete second Elder Jiang's mission. Thinking like this, the dozen or so men in black exchanged glances. Finally, it was decided. Charge. Aya, you're finally willing to come out. The girl, who was sitting on the ground and chewing on the meat, slowly raised her head and smiled at the black-clothed men who had rushed out and surrounded them. Do you want to sit down and eat? The black-clothed men. The others didn't show any signs of panic as they continued to sit on the ground and eat their own food. Someone even clicked his tongue and said, they're really patient, to actually wait till now to come out. Chapter 5038. Sigh, I've lost the bet again. I thought you could hang on for another 2 days. Huh? You've lost. Don't forget what you promised me. Everyone had this kind of style. Even the little fellow Jiang Zi, he only raised his little head from the wild game. After taking a look at them, he lowered his head and continued to chew on the meat. The black-robed men were once again stunned. Maybe their entrance wasn't cool enough? Not enough to cause a commotion? So, they weren't afraid of them. The black-robed man poked the leader softly. That. Boss, they seem to have known that we were following them. Indeed. From the moment they appeared, these young men and ladies didn't show any signs of shock. It was totally within their expectations. The leader's face sunk under the black mask. His eyes turned cold as he bellowed. Forget it, let's go first. 10 black-robed men swiftly raised the weapons in their hands as they pounced towards them. Their target was obvious. A bunch of them charged towards Yi Qingluo and the rest. and the leader took the opportunity to pounce towards Jiang Ziyi. Aya, if you don't want to sit down and eat, you have to wait for us to finish eating first? The girl with black hair and peach-colored clothes suddenly leaped up. Like a peach blossom, gorgeous beyond compare. The moment she flew up, the bone in her hand spun on her fingertips. It flew directly towards the leader. It also stopped the leader from charging towards Jiang Ziyi's path. The bone was as swift as lightning as it flew past. The leader didn't have time to evade. The bone brushed past the mask on his face. A caw sound was heard. The mask split open. It revealed a gloomy and stern face. Yi Qingluo raised her brows as she recognized that person. Wasn't he the one who suddenly rushed up to capture her in the city, asking her to go to Dark Void Hall to detoxify the poison? Yanjun? You guys made a move on a child. What kind of hero are you? Yi Qingluo landed beside Jiang Ziyi as she cast a sidelong glance at Yanjun. Why? Second Elder Jiang intends to go back on his words and let your Dark Void Hall people come over to stir up trouble? Yanjun's mask fell off and he had no intention to continue concealing it. He stared coldly at Yi Qingluo, but in actual fact he had been paying attention to how to get close to Jiang Ziyi. You already knew that we were following you? Yanjun asked. Yi Qingluo tilted her head. I just thought that Second Elder Jiang specially sent you to escort us secretly. I didn't expect that. Your plan was actually this. Her tone was full of sarcasm. Then she pretended to be puzzled and tilted her head. Her long and narrow eyes curved. What do you want to do to him? He's just a child, yet you guys are chasing him to this extent. Her curved eyes suddenly narrowed at this moment. So, why did you capture Ziyi? What's the reason? Yanjun frowned slightly when he heard that. From the looks of it, Second Elder Jiang was looking for Jiang Ziyi. Yi Qingluo didn't know the truth. He looked at Jiang Ziyi suspiciously. It was as if she couldn't believe that such a small child actually had the ability to hide from this cunning young lady. Jiang Ziyi was a little scared by the stern and scrutinizing gaze. His little body moved closer to Yi Qingluo's side. This made Yi Qingluo's eyes even more piercingly cold. Looks like I guessed correctly. Your target is indeed Ziyi. Yanjun's face darkened as dark clouds gathered. Chapter 50-39. He was looking at Yi Qingluo's action of protecting him behind her. After some time, he clenched his fists and made a decision. All of you, try your best to hold these people back. When his words fell, he was like an arrow released from the bow as he charged towards Yi Qingluo. Yi Qingluo flipped her hand and was about to grab hold of Jiang Ziyi to evade. However, a sharp and cold xian wave attacked his cheek. Shocked, the young lady took a step back. And this step back, it gave the other black-robed men, who were charging towards Jiang Ziyi, a chance. The young lady reacted and wanted to grab hold of Jiang Ziyi, but her hand brushed past Jiang Ziyi's shoulder. Jiang Ziyi was carried on the back of another black-robed man. After they succeeded, the black-robed men didn't continue the battle. After forcing these young men and ladies to retreat, they left in unison. The barren mountain, which was raging like a storm, once again regained its tranquility. Oh no, Baiming Lulu saw those men bringing Jiang Ziyi away and immediately chased after them. Xiao Yingyan stopped her and said calmly, no need to chase, he will be back in a while. Baiming Lulu didn't understand what he meant. Yan Xiaoyi took a look at Yi Qingluo's direction. If it wasn't Mu Yu's intention, who would be able to bring Ziyi away? Moreover, Master Chao didn't make a move from the start. If it wasn't Mu Yu's intention, even if Mu Yu made a mistake, with Chao Yin around, it was impossible to bring Jiang Ziyi away. On the other side, Yan Jun and the other black-robed men who were carrying Jiang Ziyi also had a strange feeling. Why did it feel like it was going a little too smoothly? Somehow, they felt that something was amiss. But for a moment, they couldn't figure out what was wrong. Until they left a distance away. Yan Jun confirmed that no one was following behind. This made everyone stop. Jiang Ziyi had been very obedient. He didn't shout or make a fuss. After they placed him on the ground, that bright eyes and white teeth, totally different from the dirty lad they saw earlier, looked at them calmly. What are you trying to do now? The little boy, with clear eyes, totally didn't show any signs of panic that a child should have at this moment. It was as if he already knew that they would kidnap him. Yanjun's face darkened as he grabbed Jiang Zi's collar. "Brat, do you know who you're talking to?" Jiang Zi's expression was calm. Meeting his fierce gaze, Jiang Zi did not avoid it. Instead he asked, "Do you know who you're talking to?" Yanjun was speechless. He had seen Jiang Zi before. The kid who crawled out of the slums. He was very submissive. How could she have the guts to refute him? Yanjun's expression was ferocious as he reached out to grab his neck. However, Jiang Zi's crisp little voice said word by word, "No matter what, I'm the young master of the Jiang family." "You're just a dog of the Jiang family. Are you sure? You want to go against your superior?" His words caused Yanjun's movements to freeze. Jiang Zi continued, "Even though I haven't officially become the young master of the Jiang family, the blood of the Jiang family flows in my veins. No matter what, my status is above that of a lackey like you." He smiled. "Do you think that if you kill me, second elder Jiang will let you off?" One question after another caused Yanjun's body to freeze on the spot. His widened eyes were almost fierce and vicious. It was as if he wanted to skin Jiang Zi alive. However, he held back in the end. Chapter 50-40. Jiang Zi was right about one thing. No matter who Jiang Zi used to be, no matter if Jiang Zi grew up in the slums or not, the blood of the Jiangs flowed in his body. Even now, no one admitted that he was a member of the Jiangs. But compared to him, a team leader of the Anshu Hall that depended on the Jiangs, he had to be noble. Moreover, second elder Jiang was obviously supporting Jiang Zi now. As long as Jiang Zi could complete the task given by second elder Jiang, he would definitely be able to return to the Jiangs. By then, his status would rise. Thinking about this, Yanjun hid the ruthless expression on his face. "Then, young Master Jiang, did you complete the task given by second elder Jiang?" "No." Jiang Zi answered simply. There was not a hint of guilt on his face for not completing the task. Instead, it was as if it was natural for him to not complete the task. To hell with it. Yanjun was patient. Second elder Jiang's patience is not good. "How long do you want him to wait?" Jiang Zi retorted. "Then try to harm sister Yu under brother Chaoyun's nose. If you can do it within a month, I'll recognize you as my big brother." Yanjun. As if he could do it. He thought of that sweet and obedient yet mysterious man. Yanjun was terrified. "So, what right do you have to urge me to complete the task?" Jiang Zi said matter-of-factly. "Now that I've finally gained the trust of Sister Yu and the others, I'm afraid my task will be delayed again because of you guys." Yanjun. He felt that this kid was playing with him. However, when she looked at Jiang Zi's small and clear eyes, she couldn't help but sigh. He pursed his lips and was too lazy to talk nonsense with Jiang Zi. "Second elder Jiang asked me to bring you a message." Jiang Zi raised his head. "Speak." He had to admit. He had the blood of the Jiangs flowing in his body, even if he grew up in the slums and lived a miserable life. However, the innate sense of nobility on his body did not require any training before it could be released. Yanjun suppressed this strange feeling and repeated second elder Jiang's words. "Second elder Jiang asked you if you wanted to meet your biological parents?" When the last four words left his mouth, Jiang Zi's deliberately stiff face was on the verge of collapsing. His eyes widened. "What did you say?" "After completing the mission, second elder Jiang will bring you back to the Jiang family's noble family. Moreover, he will let you meet your parents," Yanjun answered in detail. Jiang Zi held his breath and clenched his fists. Beads of perspiration appeared on her fair face. He tensed his body and froze in place for a long time before he managed to spit out four words. "I understand." Every word seemed to be squeezed out from the gaps between his teeth. "Recently, second elder Jiang has been very anxious. You better act quickly. If you offend second elder Jiang, I'm afraid you won't even be able to keep your life, much less meet your biological parents." After Yanjun delivered the message, he left Jiang Zi behind, and the group left quickly. Jiang Zi was left standing there in a daze. About half an hour later, Yi Qingluo and the rest then found their way over. He saw that little person standing on the spot in a daze. A cold and solemn aura. Looking at that stiff body, he must have been standing there for a long time. Chapter 50-41. Yiqing Luo sighed softly. She knew that Second Elder Jiang had some news to pass on. She also knew that Second Elder Jiang needed Jiang Ziyi's help. So she set her mind at ease to plan this. And at the same time, let Second Elder Jiang trust Jiang Ziyi more. Jiang Ziyi's earlier words were mostly taught by Yiqing Luo. But he was after all still a child. As for Second Elder Jiang, he was obviously a scheming and astute person. He would definitely attack Jiang Ziyi's heart directly. Looking at that little person's pitiful look in a daze, Yiqing Luo went forward and placed her fair hand on Jiang Ziyi's shoulder. "Ziyi, are you all right?" The young lady's soft and concerned voice made Jiang Ziyi so shocked that he trembled. He turned his head and met with Yiqing Luo's charming eyes. That little person's face was slightly stiff. When he saw Yiqing Luo, he was so shocked that he took a step back. After he realized that his reaction was too big, he was embarrassed and unnatural as he shifted his gaze away, not daring to look at Yiqing Luo. Looked like Second Elder Jiang's material was a little too fierce. Yiqing Luo didn't rush Jiang Ziyi as she directly smiled. "All right, let's continue on our way." Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, the others were stunned. But they didn't say a word as they followed behind Yiqing Luo. Jiang Ziyi stared blankly at the back of the few people in front. His eyes blinked slightly as he felt a little sour. His nose was stuffed uncomfortably. He sniffed hard and chased after Yiqing Luo. It was until he reached the young lady's side before he raised his head to look at her. The young lady's dainty brows were like a painting as she gave him a gentle smile. That smile, there was no barrier at all. Jiang Ziyi felt extremely guilty as he lowered his head and his voice sounded a little hoarse. "Sister, you don't tell me. You have nothing to ask me?" Yiqing Luo shook her head, but after thinking about it, she nodded. The curvature of her lips was very gentle. She said, "Tell me when you want to say it. It's fine if you don't want to say it. Then if you're not afraid, I'll really." Jiang Ziyi bit his lower lip. His eyes were red and sparkling. Yiqing Luo's smile became even gentler, and that pair of long and narrow eyes seemed to be filled with stars, which made the young lady look even more gentle. He didn't finish his sentence. Actually, everyone understood what the latter half of the sentence meant. Yiqing Luo replied calmly, "Will you?" "I won't." Almost reflexively, Jiang Ziyi bit his lips and refuted seriously. After he finished speaking, he was completely dumbfounded. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly as she rubbed his little head. "Isn't that enough?" The hand on her head was small, soft, and filled with endless gentleness. It seemed to be able to easily soothe all the unstable factors in his heart. His heart, at this moment, inexplicably calmed down. All the confusion in his heart had vanished. That was right. No matter what, he would never betray Sister Rain. Even if the Jiang family's aristocrats offered great conditions, he would never hurt Sister Rain. So what was he so conflicted about? He didn't need to think so much, because it was impossible for him to do it. After thinking it through, the young man's eyes were firm as he looked up at Yiqing Luo. "Sister Rain, the Jiang family's aristocrats this time. Used." He paused slightly. "My biological parents as a threat." "Biological parents?" Yiqing Luo raised her brows slightly. "Is Second Elder Jiang planning to give you a chance to acknowledge your ancestors?" Chapter 50-42. Jiang Ziyi clenched his fists tightly as his eyes turned redder. "I won't acknowledge them. They had never fulfilled their responsibilities as parents. Why should I acknowledge them? Since young, I grew up in the slums. I am a child of the slums." The young man's voice was filled with grievance as he choked with sobs. Yiqing Luo looked at him. After a long time, she sighed softly. She raised her hand and placed it on the young man's head as she gently touched it. "I know what you are thinking about in your heart." The young man's eyes were red as he looked at her with glistening teardrops. Yiqing Luo smiled. "Because in this aspect, we are very similar." She squatted down and looked at Jiang Ziyi at the same level. "As for me, I don't know who my biological parents are. I have always wanted to find them." The young lady's words were soft and her voice was so gentle that it didn't seem like she was talking about her own matters. To tell the truth, as for finding them, to acknowledge my ancestors or whatever, I don't have much of an intention. What I want most is to ask my parents face to face. Back then, why did you leave me behind? Yiqing Luo took out her handkerchief as she gently wiped the tears from the corners of Jiang Ziyi's eyes. I know, you must want to ask your parents this question. The more she wiped, Jiang Ziyi's tears gushed out even more, as though he couldn't stop. Yan Jun, who had just completed his mission, led a group of black-robed men as he watched Yiqing Luo and the rest bring Jiang Ziyi away. One by one, they walked out from the shadows. Then they planned to continue following the footsteps of that group. Looking at Yiqing Luo and Jiang Ziyi's interaction, Yan Jun's heart had a strange feeling. Somehow, he felt as though he had neglected some crucial information. Just as he was about to catch on to something, suddenly a hurricane struck. Immediately following that, a palm which was condensed from profound energy landed on his face. Pack! A crisp, extremely loud sound was heard. His entire body was flipped over, and he fell to the ground. His internal organs shook as though they were gushing out blood. Second Elder Jiang. The surrounding black-robed men respectfully knelt on the ground as they greeted him. Yan Jun was in so much pain that his body was curled up. He opened his eyes in a daze and saw an old man dressed in black standing there aggressively where he had been standing just now. The pair of eyes that seemed to be covered in frost glared at Yan Jun. Yan Jun could clearly sense the aura emanating from Second Elder Jiang's body. It was a ruthless aura of the coming storm. Second Elder Jiang. Why is he angry? Idiot. Second Elder Jiang shouted angrily. Didn't you see the signals I sent you several times? Yan Jun's eyes widened, his body struggling slightly. He had seen it. Every single signal had given a response. Second Elder Jiang's eyes were filled with malice. I have to go there myself. Tell me, what is the use of you people? Yan Jun was in so much pain that he could not speak. When he opened his mouth, a large mouthful of blood gushed out. Second Elder Jiang's anger caused all the men in black to tremble. Second Elder Jiang's words revolved around. He had sent out 5 signals, all of which were orders for them to intercept morning clouds and evening rain, and the rest to stop them from moving forward. But the response of the signal he received was one by one, the distance was pulled apart. When these words were spoken, all the men in black were stunned. One of the men in black explained, Second Elder Jiang, the signal I received was not like that. Chapter 50-43. The signal we received was that Second Elder Jiang wanted us to urge Jiang Ziyi to hurry up. As soon as he said that, Second Elder Jiang and the other men in black seemed to have realized something. Second Elder Jiang's face darkened. You mean, the signal that I sent to you was intercepted? It wasn't just an interception. It had even been changed. A figure involuntarily appeared in everyone's mind. She was dressed in a peach blossom robe and had black hair. She was cute and lovely, but her way of doing things was arrogant and unreasonable. Sunset Rain. If Twilight Rain had been interfering with their signals from the very beginning, it would have been impossible. In other words, Sunset Rain had long discovered that the Dark Void Hall's little tails were following them. Most importantly, how did Twilight Rain and her people know the meaning of the signal from the Jiang nobles and the Dark Void Hall? No matter how he tried to explain it, it wouldn't make sense. Second Elder Jiang's gloomy eyes darkened even more. He clenched his fist and said with a murderous aura, What a good Sunset Rain. I didn't expect that this elder, who has toyed with people's hearts for so many years, would fall into the hands of a little girl today. At this point, how could he not understand? All of this was completely. That girl had single-handedly controlled the chess game. Ever since he found Jiang Ziyi, he was already trapped in the girl's chess game. The young girl was treating them like monkeys. A bunch of trash. Second Elder Jiang's gaze was cold and murderous as he stared ahead. Stop them first. We must not let them go any further. Why? The man in black didn't quite understand. Second Elder Jiang's expression was dark and gloomy. The coldness in his eyes could almost freeze people to death. Because the place they are going to is Infernal domain. That place. They absolutely could not be allowed to set foot here. Yi Qingluo and the rest were just moving forward. Suddenly, Yi Qingluo's long and narrow eyes squinted as she looked towards a certain direction behind her. Meanwhile, Dmo Xian also raised his eyes and looked over at the same time. Their actions attracted the attention of others. What happened? Yan Xiaoyi followed their line of sight. Apart from the endless barren mountains, there was nothing else unusual. Yi Qingluo and Dmo Xian retracted their vision at the same time, as they looked at each other tacitly and smiled. Between the girl's long and narrow eyes, a wisp of light slowly blossomed. She curled her lips and said, "Looks like our main show is about to begin." The mockery in his tone was obvious. Yan Xiaoyi's beautiful eyes narrowed as she understood. The Anshu Hall has caught up. That's probably because he's already noticed that we've been up to something over the past few days. Yi Qingluo's eyes curved as she patted Jiang Ziyi's head lightly. Ziyi should have been discovered. He has no intention to pledge his allegiance to him. They had long since known that Anshu Hall's little tail was following them. Naturally, he also saw the signals that they were sending to each other. Hence, Yi Qingluo looked for Dmo Xian for help. The signal from second elder Jiang's side was directly changed to another signal. As for how she knew, the signal of the Anshu Hall. This was all thanks to, while she was stirring up trouble in the Anshu Hall's headquarters. He had seen it before. It doesn't matter. Before the other party makes a move, let's get along peacefully. Let's go. Yi Qingluo retracted her gaze from afar as her eyes retracted the glint. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest gathered around to discuss about the Anshu Hall's matters. Chapter 50-44. Yi Qingluo had already held onto Dmo Xian's arm as her lips curled into a smile. Looks like the other party is really angry this time. They sent a little more people. Her voice wasn't loud. The others were engrossed in discussing Dark Void Hall, and didn't hear their conversation. The Jiang family's aristocrats want to stop you from moving forward. The man lowered his eyes as he met the young lady's sparkling eyes. This last, what she said seemed like she was afraid. But her tone and expression were obviously excited. What else could he do? Who asked this to be his family's treasure? Whatever she wanted to do, he would pamper her. Yi Qingluo was attracted by the man's words and didn't notice that when the man looked at her, his eyes were filled with endless pampering. She pursed her pink lips slightly as her narrow eyes rose as she pondered. "Stop me?" Her black as glass eyes suddenly turned and a cold glint shot out from her half-squinted eyes. "You mean Jiang family's aristocrats don't want me to go to the Devil's Domain?" Their destination this time was the Devil's Domain. Along the way, the incident at Dark Void Hall had happened. Over at Dark Void Palace, they also believed her in Dmo Xian's disguise. Why would they let the Jiang family's aristocrats stop her from going to the Devil's Domain? Judging from the signals second elder Jiang has been sending out recently and the frequency of his signals, he should be trying his best to stop you from moving forward. Dmo Xian replied warmly. This batch of people should be from the Jiang family's aristocrats, obviously. To stop you by force. That meant second elder Jiang had made up his mind not to let her go to the Devil's Domain. Yi Qingluo's mind depicted the route of the map once again. Their current position. They were very close to the Devil's Domain. As long as they passed through this barren mountain, they would reach the entrance of the Devil's Domain. Based on their speed, they would arrive in at most 2 days. So, second elder Jiang was anxious. And they came personally to stop her? Yi Qingluo's half-squinted eyes flashed a deep thought. The Jiang family's aristocrats were working together with Dark Void Palace. The Jiang family's actions were most likely because of Dark Void Palace's orders. Then why did Dark Void Palace stop her, who had no relations with Dark Void Palace and Feng family, from heading to the Devil's Domain? Last, could it be? Your identity has been exposed? Old Man Song reminded. Impossible. Yi Qingluo's tone was firm. If the Palace of Darkness really found out about my current identity, then not only the Jiang family's aristocrats will come looking for me, the Palace of Darkness will definitely come personally. Moreover, Yi Qingluo paused for a moment as her tone turned solemn. If the palace of seclusion knew my current identity, then they would be able to guess that my disguise was my real motive. Therefore, it is even more impossible for the gloomy palace to stop me from reaching my destination, because they need me to lead them to the place they are looking for. The nobles of the Jiang family would stop her from going to the demon area. There was only one explanation for this. There were secrets of the tenebrous palace in the demon domain. The palace of gloomy darkness was afraid that she would discover their secret. Thus, they tried every possible way to stop him. It can't be such a coincidence, right? Yiqing Luo's heart thumped. There's no need to think so much. The man's broad palm covered the girl's head, his voice low and gentle. As long as you want to, you can definitely go to the demon area. No one can stop you. The large hand on her head seemed to be infused with endless power. The girl's eyebrows were dyed with brilliant flowers. She nodded heavily. I know. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 50-45. She had always known. As long as he was by her side, he would definitely do his best to help her. No matter what the Jiang family's aristocrats were planning, no one could stop her and Dmo Xian from entering the devil domain. Along the way, Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian held hands and stuck together lovingly. In actual fact, they were vigilantly observing the surrounding environment. But the Jiang family's aristocrats had yet to make a move. Until nighttime, there were no other movements. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. They were just a short distance away from the entrance of the devil domain. Tomorrow they would have to rush for a few more hours. Basically, they would be able to arrive. Second Elder Jiang had sent out signals so frequently previously that she thought he was extremely anxious. Now he came personally. But instead there was no movement. Could it be that he was secretly harboring some bad intentions? Yiqing Luo's guess was indeed correct. As expected, just as she asked everyone to rest on the spot, suddenly, bamboo tubes with thick smoke were thrown out from all directions. About 10 over of them. The moment the bamboo tubes landed on the ground, a large amount of thick smoke gushed out and instantly filled the entire mountain range. In front of Yiqing Luo and the rest, it instantly turned into a vast expanse of white, unable to see the surrounding illusion clearly. Oh no! Qiao Yinyan's voice sank as he shouted sternly. Gather together, protect Master Qiao and Madam Qiao. The sky was filled with thick smoke, white fog curled up, blurring everything around. How could the crowd not feel the strangeness in this? Their hearts were hanging in their throats as they widened their eyes, trying to determine the direction of the danger through the vast expanse of whiteness. Cover your mouth and nose. Suddenly, a clear voice, in this atmosphere where they couldn't see the surrounding environment clearly, entered their ears. The few of them subconsciously followed the instructions. Hold it well. Suddenly, a fair little hand stretched out in front of Yan Xiaoyi. Yan Xiaoyi used one hand to cover her mouth and nose, while the other hand was stuffed into a small bottle. A very pungent and rich medicinal smell came from the bottle. This is... what? The last two words were not out. Immediately after, they felt a gust of wind suddenly rise around them. The hurricane blew the sky full of smoke, causing it to sway in all directions. A pink figure could be vaguely seen moving through the thick smoke. This thick smoke is poisonous gas. Qiao Yinyan's voice was heavy. Madam Qiao must have given you the antidote. Antidote? This thing, it smells so bad, can it be drunk? Yan Xiaoyi expressed her doubts. Oh, a muffled groan came from the side. Then Baiming Lulu lowered her voice. Not good. Zi's body is too weak to withstand this kind of poison. Don't hesitate. Xiaoyi, give the antidote to Zi first. Qiao Yinyan instinctively took the medicine bottle from Yan Xiaoyi's hands. Go. Outside the thick smoke, a tyrannical shout resounded. In an instant, a large group of profound practitioners with majestic profound energy surged forward from all directions. At a glance, there were at least 40 people. Their heads were wrapped tightly with black cloth, leaving only a pair of bloodthirsty eyes. After rushing into the thick smoke, He waved the weapon in his hand at the few figures in the thick smoke. Crack! The weapon dropped. It plunged into a few figures. But the crowd didn't feel the feeling of a weapon piercing into their flesh. Instead, it was hard, as if something had bounced their weapons back. The few of them looked at each other, suspiciously retrieving their weapons. In the thick smoke, they fixed their eyes over there. Chapter 46. How could it be a few figures? It was clearly a few boulders. Boulders. A trace of astonishment flashed through the eyes of the large group of cultivators. After releasing the poisonous smoke, they were certain. The group of youngsters were all in that direction. Because of the poisonous smoke, they were all rooted to the spot and no one dared to move. How did they turn into a few boulders? How was this possible? Come back after killing them, Second Elder Jiang said in a cold voice. And that young couple, don't let them escape. Second Elder is indeed brilliant. Yen Jun flattered him and said, those brats are just a few brats after all. How could they compare to Second Elder's intelligence? This poisonous smoke enters their bodies through breathing. Once it enters their bodies, they won't be able to escape even if they sense something is wrong. Even those two kids won't be able to escape from Second Elder's plan. Second Elder Jiang was not moved by Yen Jun's flattery. He snorted coldly, his eyes filled with coldness. That couple was very strange. He could only come up with this plan. Take their lives when they are unprepared. No matter what method he used. As long as he achieved his goal, it was enough. Second Elder Jiang waited for a while. Seeing that there was still no response from within the poisonous smoke, he urged impatiently, hurry up. Bring out all the corpses. Yen Jun was still injured by Second Elder Jiang. Naturally, he could not charge into the poisonous smoke and fight with those cultivators. He could only continue to flatter him. The Jiang family is indeed the Jiang family. With just one move, you've taken care of the people who have been troubling Anshu Hall for many days. He. Suddenly, under the dark night sky, a girl's clear and melodious laughter entered their ears. Immediately, they felt a chill down their spines. Who is it? Yen Jun's expression froze. He immediately looked around with vigilance. Second Elder Jiang's expression darkened as well. He narrowed his eyes dangerously. I didn't expect that a dignified Jiang family aristocrat would need to use such despicable methods to deal with a few kids. The girl's soft voice was full of sarcasm. It rippled in the air. Yen Jun immediately recognized the owner of the voice, Twilight Rain. It was Twilight Rain. She didn't die. Yen Jun quickly looked at Second Elder Jiang. Second Elder, it's that young lady. Second Elder Jiang furrowed his white brows, and a ruthless killing intent appeared on his sinister face. So it turns out that you Jiang nobles are so cowardly. You're even afraid of us little brats. How laughable. The girl continued to mock. If this matter were to spread out, it would definitely be a joke for everyone. Are you sure you have the chance to spread the word? Second Elder Jiang's voice was cold and dignified, revealing a hint of cold killing intent. His expression was calm as he gazed at the end of the thick smoke. So what if you managed to escape? Your group of brothers are all in this elder's hands. Only this elder has the antidote for this poisonous smoke. Oh, really? The young girl giggled again. Second Elder Jiang is really confident in yourself, but it's a pity, Second Elder Jiang. You've already lost your sovereignty. Her smiling voice was soft and melodious. Second Elder Jiang's expression darkened. What do you mean? What I mean is, the young girl purposely dragged out the last syllable as she chuckled softly. A gust of wind came. Second Elder Jiang saw. Chapter 47. A slender figure in a pink dress was faintly discernible in the thick smoke. The sky was filled with thick smoke. Behind the young lady, an ethereal aura rose in spirals. It made the young lady look like a fairy who stepped on the clouds. Unparalleled beauty. Too close. Second Elder Jiang and Yen Jun could clearly see the young lady's delicate and lovely face. There wasn't a hint of panic on the young lady's face. Her slightly curved pink lips were like a blooming rose. Her eyes and brows were delicate and charming, yet they emitted an irresistible charm. It was indeed the young lady named Muyu. Miss Muyu. Second Elder Jiang said coldly. Do you really think that you can walk out of this barren mountain today? She actually dared to swagger in front of him. This was too overconfident and overestimated herself. Or underestimated the Jiang family's aristocrats. Yiqing Luo's expression remained unchanged. Her long and narrow eyes were frivolous as she carelessly hooked her finger. I feel that, Second Elder Jiang. Today, I'm afraid, you won't be able to walk out of this barren mountain. Second Elder Jiang sneered. Ignorant. His gaze turned cold as he shouted sternly. Go. Capture her first. But the wind blew and the grass moved. The thick smoke spread. But not a single one of the Jiang family's secret guards that he brought along showed up. Second Elder Jiang finally felt that something was wrong. Instantly his expression changed. What did you do? When he asked, his gaze fell on the young lady's crooked finger. After that his pupils constricted abruptly, and he seemed to be stunned. On the young lady's slender finger, a ray of light could be vaguely seen flickering. That was silver thread. The young lady's finger, hooked with a few strands of silver thread? Second Elder Jiang seemed to have reacted. His gaze suddenly turned towards the thick smoke. The direction of the silver thread. It was the thick smoke. In other words, the young lady used these silver threads to pin down all the Jiang family's secret guards that he brought along. What was going on? When did she do it? Second Elder Jiang, you're such a smart person. How could you be so stupid? The young lady's long and narrow eyes slightly curved. The arc at the end of her eyes was charming and charming. You obviously knew that I already knew of your existence, but still wanted to play dirty with me. Her fingertips suddenly exerted force. Amidst the thick smoke, there was a muffled groan of pain. Second Elder Jiang's face darkened. However, the girl in front of him smiled and said, But playing dirty? I seem to be better at it. Second Elder Jiang's face darkened completely, like a gloomy cloud. His treacherous sinister eyes stared deadly at Yiqing Luo. What are you trying to do? Shouldn't I be the one asking you this? Yiqing Luo tilted her head and blinked her charming eyes, putting on a pure and innocent look. Second Elder Jiang traveled thousands of miles and followed us all the way, and then played such childish and despicable tricks. What is he trying to do? Second Elder Jiang spat angrily. Yiqing Luo's smile remained unchanged. It doesn't matter if you don't answer anyway. Even if you don't answer, I know the reason. She raised her pink lips and smiled sweetly and calmly. Unfortunately, Second Elder, you can't stop me. I'm going to the demon domain. When the words infernal domain were mentioned, Second Elder Jiang's sinister eyes indeed constricted for a moment. Yiqing Luo casually hooked her finger, as though she didn't care how many lives were entangled on the end of the silver thread that her finger hooked. To her, it didn't matter at all. She smiled brilliantly. And what I want to do in the infernal domain, Second Elder? You can't stop me. Chapter 50-48. You know about it? Second Elder Jiang's pupils contracted rapidly. His eyes widened as he stared at Yiqing Luo, as though he wanted to stare through the young lady. Yiqing Luo blinked innocently. I don't know anything. Second Elder Jiang was so angry that he gritted his teeth. If she didn't know, why would she specially go to such a dangerous place like the Devil's Domain? If she didn't know, why would she go to the Devil's Domain for? Yiqing Luo seemed to see through Second Elder Jiang's thoughts, as her lips curled. Since Second Elder Jiang has no intention to negotiate, then I'll have to trouble Second Elder Jiang and these secret guards that you brought, too. While the two of them were talking, the thick smoke had dispersed along with the hurricane, gradually revealing the scene that was hidden under the thick smoke. Countless of black-robed secret guards were stuck together in different postures. They were squeezed together, face to face. They didn't dare to move, as though their bodies were fixed in place. But if they squinted their eyes to take a closer look, one could tell. Those 30 over black-robed men were wrapped with a wisp of piercingly cold silver light, like a sharp blade filled with murderous intent, about to slaughter its prey. And, according to the original plan, Those 4 young lads and a child who were poisoned by the poisonous smoke were standing on a mountain not too far away, looking down at them from above. They were fine. None of them were affected by the poisonous smoke. Could it be? Right from the start, this team of young lads already knew of his plan. Did he purposely wait here? Second Elder Jiang's heart thumped fiercely. Somehow he felt as though he had been schemed against. That black-haired young lady curled her pink lips, smiling sweetly. Second Elder Jiang, why are you so shocked? Don't tell me. You've forgotten Dark Void Hall's headquarters was destroyed? Second Elder Jiang's expression changed abruptly. How could he possibly forget? Dark Void Hall's headquarters, thousands of Dark Void Hall cultivators, were all poisoned to death overnight. Now the entire Dark Void Hall was in a mess. Basically, it could be said, Dark Void Hall's vitality was greatly damaged. If the Jiang family didn't send anyone to rebuild Dark Void Hall could only disappear from the God realm. It really is you. Although he had long guessed that the poison in the Anshu Hall had something to do with the young girl before him, he didn't think too much about it. But the girl never admitted it. Now that he admitted it, Second Elder Jiang was still unable to calm down. The poison that this young girl had used was something that even the most experienced apothecary in the God realm would not be able to identify, much less refine an antidote. Not to mention this poisonous smoke. No wonder they were fine. Are you regretting? Yi Qing Luo grinned. But it's too late to regret. Second Elder Jiang's hands, which were hanging by his side, suddenly clenched into fists. He fiercely threw out a fist wind towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Soon after, when the dark light spread, with a move of his body he turned around and ran. Holy shit! What was going on? You want to run now that you know you're dead? Did he not want the lives of all the hidden guards he had brought? Yi Qing Luo was dumbstruck by Second Elder Jiang's actions. Second Elder Jiang flew to a distance of 2 mountains before he turned his head to take a look at Yi Qing Luo. But he saw the black-haired young lady standing motionless on the spot, staring at him with her charming eyes, totally without any intention to chase after him. Her expression was very calm. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 50-49. But under this tranquility, Second Elder Jiang's heart vaguely had a strange feeling. Somehow, this was like the calm before the storm. What had he overlooked? What had he overlooked? Second Elder Jiang's heart was flustered. Suddenly, he thought of something. His pupils constricted. His fleeing footsteps also came to an abrupt halt. His eyes widened as he looked at the motionless young lady behind him. From afar, he could see clearly that the young lady's slightly upturned pink lips curled into a domineering and disdainful arc. Second Elder Jiang's heart sank heavily. He had overlooked. On that mountain stood 4 young men and women. But that mysterious blue-eyed young man was not among them. Then where was he? Second Elder Jiang had heard from 3rd and 4th Elder Jiang, and a large number of Dark Void Hall's cultivators, that obedient and handsome blue-eyed young man's ability was above all the elders. He was able to break through the Dark Void Hall's cultivators' defense and save Long Yunjian. So right from the start he was very vigilant against that blue-eyed young man. But earlier, he was not poisoned by Yi Qing Luo and her entourage. Even the secret guards he brought along were disrupted by the movement of his abdomen. He had completely forgotten about this matter. Bam! His thoughts stopped. Second Elder Jiang only felt a biting cold wind brushing against his face. Immediately after, his body flew through the air and landed heavily on the ground. Second Elder Jiang flipped over and stood up. The pain of his body being smashed made his footsteps wobble. When he gazed over, he saw a young man dressed in a bamboo-colored brocade robe standing in front of him. The young man was dressed in brocade with a jade belt. His features were picturesque, obedient and handsome as though he was a pampered young master. But unfortunately, that pair of azure blue gem-like clear eyes was emitting a terrifying vicious aura. Second Elder Jiang's wrist flipped and grabbed his long spear as he propped himself up. Young Master Chao of the Chao family, Chao Yin? The young man didn't respond. A pair of icy blue eyes glanced at him indifferently. That gaze was high and mighty, as though the person he was looking at was a useless trash, not worthy of his attention. Second Elder Jiang could clearly feel the young man's contempt. His solemn and dignified face gradually distorted, revealing an ugly malevolence. Young Master Chao, if you dare to hurt me today. Before he could finish his arrogant words, the youth's sleeves moved slightly. Profound light surged and boundless profound energy shot out. Second Elder Jiang wanted to hide, but when she met the young man's sapphire-like eyes, she felt a chill run down her spine. An invisible sense of oppression made him unable to move his entire body. No, that's not right. Why did those eyes feel so familiar? It was as if he had seen it somewhere before. Without any time to think, a tyrannical and vigorous profound energy had already rushed over. The dazzling profound light almost hurt his eyes. A profound light flashed past. A heart-wrenching pain, as if his body was being torn apart by 5 horses, assaulted his entire body. Second Elder Jiang let out a blood-curdling scream as blood gushed out from his mouth. Before his consciousness fell into eternal darkness, suddenly, a thought struck him. Oh right, those eyes, he had seen them before. That was His Majesty the Emperor, His Majesty the Emperor? Second Elder Jiang couldn't believe it. He turned his head with difficulty, and looked at the girl in peach robes and black hair not far away. Suddenly he understood something. But he would never be able to say what he understood. He would never be able to open his eyes. Chapter 50-50. Second Elder Jiang was taken care of. The hidden guards of the other nobles of the Jiang family had no power to resist, so they naturally accompanied Second Elder Jiang on his journey. She was about to arrive at the infernal domain. He didn't want any more accidents to happen. He finished dealing with the nobles of the Jiang family who came to cause trouble. The group continued on their way. Yan Xiaoyi stared at Yi Qingluo with sparkling eyes. Muyu, how on earth did you do it? How did you get rid of those dark guards in such a short time? From the moment they took the antidote for Twilight Rain and escaped from the poisonous smoke, only a short moment had passed. Twilight Rain had already subdued all the shadow guards. They didn't see how she did it at all. Yi Qingluo smiled mysteriously. This is a secret. Of course she couldn't say it. After the shadow guards entered the poisonous smoke, Chen Chongqing's expression changed. Did she use the poisonous smoke to conceal her vision and take out her glowing flame fan? The dark guards were unable to break free from the silver threads on the glowing flame fan. You still want to keep this a secret? Yan Xiaoyi clicked her tongue, and then asked. Then, I'll ask another question. You shouldn't still want to keep it a secret, right? What? Yi Qingluo raised her brows. Yan Xiaoyi, what exactly is young Master Chao's profound rank? They had been suppressing this question for a long time. He was simply too curious. He watched as Chao Yin casually waved his hand in front of Second Elder Jiang. He was completely nonchalant, as if he was strangling an ant. It was a piece of cake for him to deal with Second Elder Jiang. After all, Second Elder Jiang's strength, although they had never fought before. It was also very clear. Even if the 4 of them attacked together, they might not be able to last more than 10 moves against Second Elder Jiang. They knew Chao Yin was strong, but they didn't expect him to be this strong. The man maintained his aloof persona, and did not answer. Yi Qingluo rubbed her chin as she looked at Yan Xiaoyi seriously and shook her head. To tell the truth, I don't know either. Yan Xiaoyi. The other 3. If you don't want to tell us, we won't force you to tell us. Who would believe such a lie? Yan Xiaoyi had a look of disdain. Yi Qingluo. I'm telling the truth. She really didn't know Dmo Xian's real profound grade. His heart was tired. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest didn't have the intention to continue asking. Yi Qingluo pulled Dmo Xian's arm, her long and narrow eyes raised. Seriously, what profound grade are you at? As your wife, I don't even know your profound rank. This is really a failure. Dmo Xian turned his hand over and clasped her little hand. I'll tell you when we reach the devil's domain. Still making it so mysterious. Yi Qingluo's little head bumped against his chest. She suddenly lowered her voice. Just now, before Second Elder Jiang died, did you notice the way he looked at you? After Second Elder Jiang escaped, she kept staring at Second Elder Jiang. Naturally, he didn't miss it either. Before Second Elder Jiang was engulfed by Dmo Xian's profound qi, the emotions that were projected from his eyes. Dmo Xian replied calmly, and then did he recognize your identity? She saw that look very clearly. Perhaps before Second Elder Jiang died, he had discovered Dmo Xian's true identity, as well as her identity. Dmo Xian lowered his eyes and looked at her, worried of being discovered. He's already dead, even if he knew. There's no way he could bring this news to the secluded palace. Yi Qingluo shrugged. I'm just a little surprised that he could recognize us at the last moment. Chapter 50-51. Once we met once. Dmo Xian explained as he raised his hand and rubbed her head. Don't worry. Yi Qingluo raised her head as her picturesque brows curved. With you around, I'm not worried at all. Dmo Xian's inky black eyes were also filled with a smile. His Lil Luo knew how to rely on him more and more. This was a good sign. He wrapped his arms around the young lady's slender waist in satisfaction. The lady in his arms used her slender hand to press on the back of his hand, moving his hand away. That's right, Xian, based on our speed, we will reach the Devil region by tomorrow afternoon at the latest. Have you been to the Devil region before? Dmo Xian's eyes deepened slightly, under the young lady's curious gaze. His voice was calm. Yes. That place. Is it really as terrifying as the rumors say? Yi Qingluo automatically substituted the Devil region into the Devil realm. She wondered if there were a bunch of mindless devils in the Devil region. Dmo Xian pulled out the hand which was grabbed by the young lady and pressed hard on her head. That place is very dangerous. You just need to follow me closely, understand? Yi Qingluo blinked her eyes as her charming eyes were filled with suspicions. Darling, do you know you're giving me a kind of strange feeling? What? Dmo Xian asked. Yi Qingluo's brows rose slightly, mentioning the Devil region. You're very nervous and your emotions are very gloomy. So, when the man heard the word so, his handsome brows creased slightly as his sapphire eyes revealed a sliver of anxious fluster. Do you have any old lovers in the Devil region? Yi Qingluo finished her last sentence. Her tone was raised as it was filled with an interrogative tone. Dmo Xian. He shook his head. No. Really. Yi Qingluo pinched his face. If you don't have any old lovers, why don't you dare to look into my eyes? The man sighed softly as he slowly followed the young lady's strength and met her gaze. He raised his hand and held the young lady's little hand which was pinching his face and said, The Devil region is a little complicated. You'll know when we reach there. After that, no matter how Yi Qingluo asked, he did not say a word about it. Yi Qingluo pinched the man's hand and snorted lightly. Sure. When we reach the Fiend region, I want to see what shameful things you're hiding from me. There was no longer a tail following him. The journey was smooth. The next day, he arrived at the entrance of the infernal domain. The further they went, the more desolate it became. It was as if all the gloomy and cold air had spread across the entire sky. Yan Xiaoyi and Baiming Lulu had already been enveloped by this cold aura, and the two of them hugged each other. He could not endure the corrosion of this cold qi. Xiao Yinyan held onto Mo Yuying's wrist with one hand. His face was pale, and it was obvious that he was unable to adapt to this environment. On the contrary, Mo Yuying was expressionless. She didn't seem to be able to sense the cold aura around her. Perhaps it was because he was expressionless. He couldn't see anything strange about her. As for Jiangzi, he had already fainted and was being carried on Xiao Yinyan's shoulder. Even Yi Qingluo vaguely felt a little uncomfortable. She furrowed her brows. A broad and thick palm clasped her small hand. A warm feeling seeped into Yi Qingluo's limbs and bones, causing the discomfort in her body to suddenly disappear. This is the Devil region? Yi Qingluo narrowed her eyes slightly as she sized up the huge. As though a black hole had appeared out of thin air in midair. In this desolate mountain range. As though a huge bloody mouth had been opened. Chapter 50-52. The chilling aura that filled the sky came from the black hole. You guys can send me here. Yi-Ching Luo glanced sideways as she looked at the 4 people behind her. If you go any further, your bodies will not be able to take it. But you. Yan Shaoyi looked at her worriedly. Yi-Ching Luo smiled. I'm fine. Since I've decided to go to the Devil's region, I've naturally done my preparations. She shifted her gaze back to the black hole. Next, it's our battlefield. Although Yan Shaoyi and the rest were worried, they knew their limits. Even if they followed Sunset Rain into the infernal domain. In fact, he might even become a burden to them and drag them down. All right. Yan Shaoyi suppressed the cold air around her, causing her body to feel uncomfortable. Her face was slightly pale, but her beautiful eyes were filled with determination. Leave Jiangzi to us. We will wait for your return. Yi-Ching Luo's long and narrow eyes were filled with ripples. They had already arrived at the infernal domain. That meant she was one step closer to going to her mother's tomb. I wonder how the substitute is doing with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Yi-Ching Luo and Dmo Xian exchanged glances. Then he clasped his hands together and walked toward the entrance of the demonic domain. The black hole was shrouded in thick black mist. After stepping into the black hole, everything in front of him was shrouded in darkness. The bone-chilling coldness seemed to be cutting through her skin and assaulted her face. Yi-Ching Luo could even smell an extremely damp smell which was very pungent. She slightly tightened her fingers. The man beside her sensed that something was wrong with her. His slender and powerful arms pulled her into his embrace. He used his warmth to dispel the coldness around her body. Follow me closely, don't be afraid. A low and mellow voice that sounded like fine wine floated down from above. Clear and gentle. It easily soothed all the uneasiness in Yi-Ching Luo's heart. The infernal domain is a place of slaughter, so the entrance would be filled with Yin energy. He explained. It'll be better once we enter the infernal domain. The infernal domain was not easy to enter. At least Yi-Ching Luo felt terrible. Even if Dmo Xian had been protecting her with his profound qi, it could only alleviate that little bit of discomfort. The Yin qi that filled the sky was like a sharp blade, cutting into their skin one by one. There was also a pungent stench in the air. It almost made Yi-Ching Luo vomit. Especially as the 2 of them moved forward, there seemed to be some sort of resistance that prevented them from moving forward. Dmo Xian had been using his body to pave the way forward. From time to time, he would lower his head and ask gently in her ear, "Can you still hold on?" Yi-Ching Luo was unable to describe her current feelings. The pungent stench made it difficult for her to breathe. A large amount of Yin qi turned into sharp blades, causing her skin to hurt as if her flesh was being cut off. The resistance seemed to be squeezing her chest. Yi-Ching Luo bit hard on her lower lip to sober herself up a little. I'm fine. As soon as she opened her mouth, she felt a sharp pain in her head. In the next instant, he passed out completely. By the time Yi-Ching Luo woke up, what entered his eyes was a pitch-black sky. A crescent moon that looked like a hook hung in the sky, and a few stars occasionally flashed by. She blinked her eyes as her consciousness was still in a daze. She stared at the sky in a daze for some time. Then she slowly sat up. She surveyed the surroundings. Everything was quiet. Her body no longer had the discomfort from earlier. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 50-53. However, the pink dress on her body and the cut on her wrist made her feel uncomfortable. It showed that the feeling he had after entering the demon domain was not a dream. However, the wounds on his body had already been treated, so he did not feel any pain. She straightened her disheveled dress and slowly stood up. Where she was now? It was a lush forest. Under the moonlight, it gave off an eerie feeling. Under the contrast of the surrounding atmosphere, Yi-Ching Luo noticed the place where she had been lying. The grass was extremely soft and clean. Yi-Ching Luo squatted down and touched the place where she had been lying. It was indeed different from the surrounding meadows. From the looks of it should be Dmo Xian who placed her here. Knowing that Xian should be nearby, He did not separate from Xian. Yi Qingluo's heart, which was hanging in suspense, finally calmed down. She would stay here and wait for Xian to return. Yi Qingluo was waiting as she checked the wounds on her body. He confirmed that it was just a superficial wound. The medicine that Xian had applied on her was an excellent ointment, and it was estimated that she would recover in less than 2 days. She felt relieved, and her slender finger poked at the azure dew bracelet. Old man's song, is this the devil's domain? However, the azure dew bracelet didn't respond in the slightest. Yi Qingluo frowned as she injected her profound energy, but the azure dew bracelet's response was as still as stagnant water. So much so that she couldn't even enter the interior of the azure dew bracelet. What was going on? Yi Qingluo's expression congealed as she tried several times. In the end, he was completely sure. Not only did she lose contact with Old Man Song, but she couldn't even sense those things in the pet space. It was as if there was a barrier separating her from them. But fortunately, the space within the profound phoenix ring was still usable. Could it be? After entering the demon realm, the aura of the demon realm was too cold, so it cut off all contact between her and her companions. It looked like they could only wait for Xian to return before they could find out the reason. However, Yi Qingluo waited silently for more than 2 hours. There wasn't even a shadow in sight. It made Yi Qingluo a little flustered. Xian left her there and left. It meant that this place was safe. However, Xian should be able to calculate the time she would wake up. You haven't come back for so long. Unless Xian was tied down by something and couldn't rush over. Yi Qingluo recalled the moment she mentioned the devil region to Xian, and his reaction. Could it be, did something really happen? At this moment, Yi Qingluo's ears were sharp as she heard something. It was as if something was heading towards her direction at a high speed. Yi Qingluo's brows creased tightly, and when that thing came near, she suddenly flew up and evaded sideways. Dong! A heavy object crashed into a thick tree not far behind her. Yi Qingluo even saw that big tree shaking violently for a few times. How much strength did he have to use to knock down a tree? Yi Qingluo halted her footsteps and looked towards that thing which was speeding over. He saw that under the thick tree, there was something about the size of a stone that a person could sit on. It was lying on the ground with its 4 legs facing the sky. His 4 limbs were stretched out perfectly straight, and he would occasionally swing his arms and legs. He looked really stupid. What was that? Yi Qingluo wanted to take a good look at that thing. Suddenly, several shadows scuttled out from all directions. Perhaps it was because Yi Qingluo had casually dodged to a tricky spot. Or perhaps it was because those few shadows' attention were all focused on that 4 limbs facing the sky. Chapter 50-54. When those figures rushed over, Lin Fan's eyes widened. They didn't discover Yi Qingluo's existence. But Yi Qingluo could clearly see the scene in front of her. This was people from the devil domain? There were 4 people in front of her. Their figures were tall, and they looked very skinny. Indeed, in human form. But their faces, each and every one of them looked like they had thick eyeliner. And their eyes were the color of blood. Even in their mouths, for sharp teeth could be seen. It looked extremely strange. At this moment, the 4 of them rushed to the bottom of the tree, and when they saw that thing with its 4 legs facing the sky, they berated sternly, "Zhu Sha, let's see where else you can escape to." That thing which was lying on the ground with its 4 legs facing the sky, finally moved its 4 limbs when it heard that. Following that, it suddenly flipped over and stood up. This flip, Yi Qingluo saw it clearly. Damn, it was a pig. Yes, pig. A pig with porcupine fur all over its body. That pig even opened its mouth to speak. What is Grandpa Pig trying to do by chasing after you? Zhu Sha, don't forget your roots. Don't forget that your life was saved by Madam, and you are able to have today's achievements because of Madam. Now you actually dare to steal Madam's medicine. Those few people from the devil domain surrounded the porcupine. Hand over the medicine. The porcupine raised its head in a serious manner. I'm a pig, not a human. The 4 of their faces sunk. We don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Madam is kind. As long as you hand over the medicine, Madam won't take your life. I didn't take the medicine. The porcupine replied. The four of them. If you didn't take the medicine, why did you run? The porcupine replied. You're chasing after me, why shouldn't I run? Do you really think I'm stupid? The four of them. After a moment of silence, the four of them gritted their teeth angrily. Since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then don't blame us for being vicious. Saying that, the few of them pounced towards the porcupine. Shio shio shio. In the air, there was the sound of something slicing through the air. Yi Qingluo saw a bunch of sharp weapons appearing in those men's hands. It was not the kind that could be hidden in a spatial pocket or spatial ring, and could appear in the palm of one's hand with just a thought. Instead, it was as if their own bones had transformed into sharp weapons from their hands. This demonic domain. It was probably a city of monsters. Yi Qingluo was stunned by the scene in front of her. The porcupine that was surrounded rolled on the ground. After dodging an attack, its gaze met Yi Qingluo, who was standing in the dark. The medicine is on her. The drug is with her. The hedgehog suddenly roared. Yi Qingluo had yet to react. In front of him, he saw a few weird-looking people from the demon realm carrying bone weapons rushing over. Yi Qingluo. What the hell? This pig actually dragged her into the water. Yi Qingluo's face was twisted. What the F***ck? She decided. Tonight, we'll have an extra meal. Roast whole pig. Yi Qingluo dodged sideways and leaped onto the branch. She lowered her head and looked at the people from the devil's domain. She said, I'm just a passerby. This has nothing to do with me. Who are you? The people from the devil's domain looked at Yi Qingluo warily. But it was only wariness. They didn't feel that Yi Qingluo looked different from them and were shocked. Nothing to do with you? If it really has nothing to do with you, how could you possibly appear in a place like Death Devil Forest? One of them sneered. Looks like you're the person behind Zhu Sha. Chapter 50-55. Backing your grandpa. Yi Qingluo felt that her physique, which allowed all sorts of troubles to come knocking on her door, was the best. From what they meant. Death Devil Forest. Just from the name alone, one could tell that it was a forbidden area that would cause people to tremble in fear. Usually no one would appear here. But she was waiting for DMO Xian here. Then something happened. And it just so happened to be right beside her. Could it be such a coincidence? Yi Qingluo took a deep breath as she clenched her fists tightly. Probably. No matter how she denied, these four people from the devil domain would not let her off. That pig. Yi Qingluo glanced at the hedgehog hiding by the side as a cold glint flashed past. Hedgehog. Why did it suddenly feel like it was shivering? It took a look at Yi Qingluo, and then looked at those four fiendish-looking people from the devil domain. In order to conceal its fear, it continued. That's right, she is the person behind me. The medicine is on her, chase after her, don't chase after me. Saying that, it picked up its trotters and tried to escape. A gust of hurricane struck down horizontally. It directly blocked the path of the hedgehog. Following that, the hedgehog felt something cold wrapping around its body. The next moment, the entire pig was lifted up into the air. Since I'm the person behind you, then I'm your master. The young lady's soft voice was filled with a smile, but it was inexplicably cold. Then, how can a slave abandon its master and run away first? The hedgehog was dragged to the front of the young lady. The hedgehog's four limbs kept on struggling as it tried to escape. But it couldn't struggle free from the thing on its body. Following that, it met with a pair of crescent-shaped eyes with deep dimples. The hedgehog suddenly stopped moving and didn't struggle anymore. A pair of pig eyes stared intently at Yi Qingluo. Following that, its mouth pounced towards Yi Qingluo's face. Beauty! Beauty! Yi Qingluo gave him a tight slap on his face. Following that, she threw the pig directly towards those four people. If you want the medicine, first slaughter this pig and stew it, then I'll give you the medicine. You. The porcupine jumped up from the ground and glared at her. You look so beautiful, but your heart is so vicious. You actually want to eat me. Yi Qingluo sneered. How dare you glare at your master? Hedgehog. The 4 people from the demon region did not have the patience to watch these 2 people fight. One of them directly grabbed the pig's head on the ground. "Don't try to play tricks. Hand over the madam's medicine." "Didn't I say that if you want the medicine, kill this insolent pig? Since I'm in a good mood, I'll naturally give it to you." Yi Qing Luo crossed her arms over her chest and slightly raised her chin. Her eyes revealed a hint of sharpness. The porcupine was hung up and its body kept swaying back and forth. After hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, it swayed even more violently. The 4 men looked at each other. Following that, they speedily surrounded Yi Qing Luo. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, on the ground, there were 4 people and a pig. Yi Qing Luo clapped her hands. From her peripheral vision, she caught a glimpse of that pig which was originally lying on the ground, quietly getting up and trying to slip away. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched as she stepped on the pig's head. "Trying to escape? Have you asked for your master's opinion? Hey woman, don't think that you can hit me just because you look good." The porcupine struggled a few times on the ground. It realized that it couldn't struggle out. It could only use its nose to make a puff 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 sound. "I'm warning you, you'd better let go of me. Otherwise don't blame your grandpa pig for taking action against women." Chapter 50-56. "Really? Why don't you do it for me to see?" Yi Qing Luo sneered as she lifted its pig head up to eye level with her. A pair of smiling eyes, in the eyes of the porcupine pig, was like a sharp knife stabbing into its body. The porcupine shivered. Then what are you trying to do?" Its arrogance also weakened. Yi Qing Luo shook the pig and looked at its 4 limbs flailing in the air as she smiled satisfactorily. "I should be the one asking you this question, right?" She was just a passerby. Unfortunately, she was dragged into the water by this pig. Just arrived at the devil's domain. She killed the people from the devil's domain. Listening to their conversation, these few people from the devil's domain seemed to be some awesome madam's underlings. If the news of her killing these 4 people was leaked out, probably on the first day in the devil's domain, she would probably cause a huge commotion. All of this was because of this pig. So, Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes narrowed dangerously as she stared dangerously at the porcupine. This pig had to be slaughtered. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to do to me?" The porcupine was frightened by Yi Qing Luo's gaze as it tried its best to kick with its hooves. But it couldn't struggle free from Yi Qing Luo. I'm wrong. I didn't mean to let them discover you." The porcupine's survival instinct was extremely strong as it quickly explained. "I saw that you're powerful and knew that you would definitely be able to settle these few people, so. I'm begging you for help." A pig blinked its pig eyes at Yi Qing Luo, putting on a fawning look. Yi Qing Luo's hand was ready to slap it. She sneered. "Do you think I'm like you, a pig that can be easily deceived?" Knew she was powerful, so it begged her for help. Was that a begging gesture? "Release your dog." "Pooey pig fart." Yi Qing Luo directly pressed the pig's head onto the ground. "Should I roast you, braise you or steam you?" "Beauty, you're so good looking. Please be kind and let me off. Just this once." The porcupine immediately begged for mercy. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose slightly. "It's my business whether I'm good looking. Why should I let you off?" The porcupine struggled on the ground. Then I'll give you the medicine I stole." "So, you really stole something?" Yi Qing Luo sneered as her lips twitched. "As for me, I hate those white-eyed pigs the most." The hedgehog pig's eyes widened, and he shouted in a sharp voice. "That's the only demon flame flower in the demon domain. Are you sure you don't want it?" Demon flame flower? What was that? She, who was familiar with 100 refining pills, had never heard of this medicinal herb. Yi Qing Luo's interest was piqued. The hedgehog pig had always been observant, and on seeing that Yi Qing Luo was visibly moved, it hurriedly continued. "With the devil flame flower, you can do whatever you want in this devil region." Yi Qing Luo snorted coldly. "If you could really run amok, would you be chased by those 4 people all the way here?" Hedgehog pig. What she said made sense. It actually had no way to refute. Yi Qing Luo bent down slightly, and the strength of her body pressed onto the porcupine's neck. The porcupine's 4 hooves kept on flopping as it let out a sound of pain. Take out the devil flame flower, and let me have a look. I'll check the goods first before deciding whether to let you off or not, Yiqing Luo said calmly. The porcupine cried out miserably, no way. You have to let me off first. Chapter 50-57. Want to discuss terms with me? Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled as she smiled brilliantly. Hedgehog's pig body shook. Who knows if you will eat me after you take the magic flame flower? Yiqing Luo smiled even more brilliantly. From the moment you pointed the spearhead at me, you have no other choice. Her hand, unknowingly pulled out a huge machete. The sharp cold glint flowed on the blade. She smiled. Or, do you think that your life is not worth to exchange for the magic flame flower? Hedgehog. Was it too late to regret now? How did it provoke this god of death? Hedgehog racked its brains, trying to delay the time. It heard the young lady asking indifferently, I say, you actually don't have any magic flame flower, right? Hedgehog's entire pig was in trouble. Its reaction didn't escape Yiqing Luo's eyes. Yiqing Luo snorted lightly. Looks like you don't have anything to exchange for your life. I. Hedgehog's thorns were trembling. But when it met with the young lady's piercingly cold, murderous eyes, its heart instantly turned cold. It couldn't escape. How could it escape from this young lady's hands? Just at this moment, the force that was pressing down on it suddenly lessened. It went into a daze. When it raised its pig head again, it saw the young lady had already straightened her body, standing beside it, looking down at it condescendingly. There wasn't much emotion on the young lady's delicate little face. She only raised her slender brows, speaking indifferently. Look at your cowardly look, cowardly to this extent. You dare to steal your wife's magic flame flower? I didn't steal. Hedgehog's thorns suddenly exploded. It flopped over and got up. Its hair stood up, staring at Yiqing Luo. It's not me. I didn't steal any magic flame flower at all. Is there any use for you to tell me? Yiqing Luo snorted. No one will believe you, so? You were chased to this place, isn't it? Hedgehog's eyes widened, slowly extinguishing the light. The sharp thorns slowly drooped down. It slowly lowered its head, and its big ears drooped. Yes. No one will believe it. The entire pig slumped to the ground. Yiqing Luo returned to the grassland that Dmo Xian had arranged for her, and sat down cross-legged. She stared at the porcupine for a while before saying, Hey, that pig. I'm not a pig, I have a name. The hedgehog raised its head. My name is Zhusha. Yiqing Luo sized it up from head to toe. No matter how I look at you, you look like a pig. Hedgehog. Don't you dare mock me, I'm telling you. I just don't have enough magic power right now. When I recover my magic power, I will become a human. Yiqing Luo. Could it be that the people from the infernal region could transform? From a pig to a human? Why does he feel like an orc? You don't have anything on you that's worth exchanging for your life. Yiqing Luo swept away the messy thoughts in her mind, and put on a serious look. Then, answer a few questions of mine. Porcupine. Cinnabar had a look of vigilance on her face. What do you want to ask? Don't ask her how she could see the vigilance on a pig's face. Anyway, she felt that this pig was on guard against her. She didn't know what it was on guard against. She also didn't know when Xian would return. Before Xian returned, she might as well find out more about the infernal region from this pig's mouth. Chapter 50-58. Yiqing Luo lifted her leg and gave it a kick. Why do you care what I ask? Just answer my questions. Oh. Zhusha replied timidly. Yiqing Luo's vision swept past the few corpses lying on the ground. Who are they? Who is the madam you are talking about? Zhusha was stunned. You actually don't know madam? Should I know? Could it be that this madam was known by everyone in the Devil region? But even so, there were at least hundreds of madams in the Devil region. It didn't mention which madam she was. Wasn't it normal to not know her? Zhu Shao's face was filled with shock. Madame Huang Xiai. Madame Huang Xi. As someone from the devil region, you don't even know Madame Huang Xi. Yi Qing Luo lifted her leg and gave it another kick. Speak properly. From Zhu Sha's mouth, Yi Qing Luo found out. This devil region was divided into 3 continents. Devil Chuan Continent, Devil Phoenix Continent, Devil Wing Continent. And this Madame Huang Xi was the first madam of the Devil Phoenix Continent. It could be said that her status was only second to the most respected Lord Devil Hall in the Devil region. And this Madame Huang Xi was the only one in the entire Devil region who was addressed as Madam. Because Madame Huang Xi's way of doing things was totally different from the other Devil region's people. Madame Huang Xi was kind-hearted and had many good karma. It could be said that in a place like the Devil region, which was filled with killings and merciless, she was totally a different kind of existence. But she was different. This Madame Huang Xi's ability was very powerful. Even the esteemed Lord Devil Hall was extremely respectful towards Madame Huang Xi. Hence, no one in the entire Devil region dared to offend this first madam. Zhu Sha was one of the people whom Madame Huang Xi saved. As she looked more likable, she was kept by Madame Huang Xi's side to take care of her daily life. But she had not expected to attract the jealousy of the others, which resulted in a drama of stealing the magic flame flower. Yi Qing Luo expressed her doubts. Since Madame Huang Xi is so powerful, why did it seem like Madame Huang Xi would die if she didn't have that magic flame flower? Madame won't. Zhu Sha's pig eyes turned red as she stared at Yi Qing Luo. Madame is so good, absolutely nothing will happen to her. So, what's the situation? Yi Qing Luo asked. Cinnabar's eyes were red as he lowered his pig head. Previously, Madame Huang Xi had once been poisoned in order to protect the safety of the Demon Phoenix continent. All these years, she had relied on her own demonic energy to suppress the poison. But this kind of forceful suppression could only suppress it. The longer it accumulates, the stronger the poison in her body. This point, Yi Qing Luo, as an alchemist, naturally understood. He moved forward to suppress the poison. In the beginning, he might seem like a normal person. But as time went on, the more poison accumulated. Basically, it had reached the point where the poison had entered the vitals and penetrated deep into the bone marrow. Even if he could detoxify the poison in the end, the poison that had accumulated in his body for a long time could not be removed. The Devil Flame Flower is the only medicine that can cure Madame Huang Xi's poison. Zhu Sha stomped her hoof on the ground. But the demonic flame flower is gone. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes unknowingly as she asked, You've already been poisoned for such a long time. Why did you only know to use the magic flame flower to detoxify the poison now? Moreover, the demonic flame flower was coincidentally stolen? I don't know as well. Zhu Sha shook her head. When I was brought back to Madame's residence by Madame was already investigating the whereabouts of the magic flame flower. Chapter 50-59. Yi Qing Luo touched her chin. If there is a chance, she could go and see what kind of poison the First Lady was suffering from. If there was a chance to help him detoxify the poison, it was not impossible. However, before this, she'd better settle her own matters first. Yi Qing Luo didn't limit the topic to Madame Huang Xi. The reason why she mentioned Madame Huang Xi was to indirectly ask about the current situation in the demon region. After a few questions, Yi Qing Luo roughly had a little bit of understanding towards the devil region. In the infernal domain, magic was the main source of power. Magic power was similar to her so-called profound energy, but there was still a clear difference between magic power and dark energy. However, Dmo Xian should have placed something on her. In the eyes of the people of the infernal region, she was exactly the same as the people from the demon domain. Even if he used profound energy, in the eyes of the devil region's people, it was still demonic energy. No wonder these people from the devil region didn't find anything strange about her when they saw her face. Even worse, after she made her move, Cinnabar also did not show any signs of abnormality. She was even shocked that she didn't know about Madame Huang Xi. After a few rounds of beating around the bush, Yi Qing Luo suddenly tugged Zhu Sha's pig ear. as she bent over slightly and leaned close to it. Then her pink lips curled into a casual smile. I have one last question. Zhusha immediately widened her pig eyes. Ask. I'll definitely tell you everything I know. Yiqing Luo's smile rose slightly, the long and narrow arc, revealing a low charm. Your devil region, where in the world? Has the existence of the devil dragon? Mystic dragon? When these two words came out from Yiqing Luo's mouth, Zhusha was completely dumbfounded. His voice trembled as he repeated, Demonic dragon? Yiqing Luo smiled as she nodded. Looks like you know where the demon dragon is? What she had said in front of the world group earlier wasn't all fake. She was indeed going to the infernal domain to find the demonic dragon. However, what she wanted was not the blood of the demonic dragon. Instead, he had to find the demon dragon's lair. It was indicated on the Xianyan Dubhe diagram. The demonic dragon lair was the entrance. You must be joking, right? Zhusha jumped up. Demon dragon? How can there be dragons in the infernal domain? Since I asked, I naturally have them. Yiqing Luo didn't continue to clamp down on Zhusha as she allowed it to use its hooves to slap the ground. You're not a qualified devil domain pig. You haven't even heard of the devil dragon. Don't tell me I haven't heard of it. Ask anyone in the infernal domain who knows where the demonic dragon is. Zhusha exploded again. Dragons? How could a creature like a dragon appear in our infernal zone? Its huge nose puffed out 2 streams of air. If you want to find a dragon, you might as well go to other realms. I heard that Nirvana realm, that low-level realm, even had dragons. Even such a low-leveled realm has a dragon, but the devil domain doesn't have one? Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly as her tone was filled with ridicule. Zhusha remained silent for a moment as her pig eyes stared suspiciously at Yiqing Luo. Why do I feel that? You totally don't treat yourself as someone from the devil domain? Aren't you from the infernal domain? Oh, I'm not. Yiqing Luo admitted straightforwardly. Zhusha. Like hell I'll believe you. His questioning was fruitless. Yiqing Luo knew that she wouldn't be able to get anything out of this pig. So she directly waved her hand, asking it to scram. Another 2 hours had passed with this pig. Dmo Xian was still nowhere to be seen. She didn't know where he had run off to. Chapter 50-60. Yiqing Luo wasn't worried that she and Dmo Xian were separated. Or perhaps Dmo Xian had left her here. After she woke up, the surrounding environment and the place she was at was absolutely safe. Presumably, Dmo Xian must have been tied up by something. In this devil region, she didn't know what happened, but the connection between the Azure Dew bracelet and the pet space was totally cut off. She had better stay here first, waiting for Dmo Xian to come back and look for her. This place. It was known as the Death Devil Forest. There shouldn't be any other devil regions people here. Zhusha had been making noises, asking Yiqing Luo to let it go. But when Yiqing Luo really asked it to scram, it instead shamelessly leaned towards Yiqing Luo's side. That pig head face was filled with a fawning and wretched smile. Big beauty, you look so good. Where do you want to go? Why not bring me along? What does it have to do with you that I look good? Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at it, unrestrainedly admitting that she looked good, but following that she rejected it decisively. You're just a useless pig. Do you want to stay by my side and be eaten by me? Zhusha. Until now you're still thinking of eating me. Yiqing Luo crossed her arms. My roasted pig skill is not bad. Do you want to try? This pig was obviously trouble. She had just arrived at the devil region, and Dmo Xian wasn't by her side. It was better to avoid trouble as much as possible. This pig absolutely could not be left alive. She originally thought that based on Zhusha's temperament, she had been frightened. At the very least, it would leave obediently. But unexpectedly, Zhusha's eyes were misty with tears as it raised its pig head, facing death with equanimity towards Yiqing Luo. To be eaten by a big beauty like you, it's my honor. If you want to eat, then eat. Yiqing Luo. Forget it. If it wanted to stay here, then so be it. Yiqing Luo returned to the clean and soft grass as she sat down cross-legged. Zhu Sha saw that she didn't chase it away and instantly opened its pig mouth as it laughed. I knew a big beauty is tough on the outside but soft on the inside. How could a big beauty bear to eat me? It waddled its buttocks to Yi Qingluo's side as it laid down. Yi Qingluo glanced at the pig head by her feet as she squinted her eyes and asked, This is the Death Devil Forest and you're following me here. Aren't you afraid that something might happen? There's a beauty here. Zhu Sha replied as if it was a matter of course. If the great beauty dares to stay in the Death Devil Forest, it means that the great beauty is completely unafraid of the Death Devil Forest. Even a beauty isn't afraid, so why should I be? Yi Qingluo. No, it wasn't that she wasn't afraid, but she totally didn't know what was so terrifying about this Death Devil Forest. But you don't have to worry, big beauty. Right now, everyone is rushing towards Devil Head City. Even the demons of the Death Devil Forest are rushing towards Devil Head City. This Death Devil Forest should be very safe for the time being. Zhu Sha saw that Yi Qingluo didn't say a word, so she spoke out to pacify her. Occasionally there are one or two troublemakers. The beauty just needs to lift a finger and you will be able to settle them, Yi Qingluo. He really thought highly of her. But Devil Head City. Those were the main cities of the 3 continents. It was also the main city where the person with the highest status in the demon domain, the one who was known as the Demon Palace Lord, was located. The people from the demon domain were rushing towards the main city. It was obvious that something big had happened in the main city, and it was something that concerned the demon domain. Yi Qingluo's slender brows rose slightly. What happy event is happening in Devil Head City? That's right, that's right. Upon mentioning this, Zhu Sha's entire pig became excited. Have you heard of Overlord? 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5061. Overlord? Not only heard of it, simply couldn't be any more familiar with it. Yi Qingluo's expression congealed slightly as her eyes looked toward Zhu Sha without blinking. Overlord. What's the matter? I'd not expected the great beauty to actually like that type of man like the Overlord. Zhu Sha secretly sniggered a few times. The minute you hear the Overlord's name, you become so agitated. Yi Qingluo's fist hammered on its head. Stop talking rubbish. Zhu Sha's head arched towards the ground as its body laid limp on the ground. Its pig trotters were still thrashing about with all its might, its mouth puffing and puffing as it howled, howling and howling. When it saw the young lady's squinted eyes, reflecting a dangerous cold glint, it immediately stopped thrashing its pig trotters. Great beauty, even if you like the Overlord, there's absolutely no possibility between the two of you. Zhu Sha spoke in an earnest and heartfelt tone. Great beauty, stop thinking about the Overlord. Why not consider me? Yi Qingluo's fist landed once again. Zhu Sha rolled on the ground. I'm serious. After I turn into a human, I'm not any worse off than the Overlord. Yi Qingluo's slender fingers clenched tightly one by one. The bones that she pinched made a kacha-kacha sound. Zhu Sha instantly became despondent. Great beauty, no matter how much you like the Overlord, he's also someone whom you can't even think about. If it was in the past, you liked the Overlord, then you can try to use your honey trap to see if you can make the Overlord take the bait. When Zhu Sha said this, she mumbled softly, although you're definitely not going to succeed, but at least you still have a chance to dream. But now, Zhu Sha raised its pig head as it gave a long sigh and spoke in an especially earnest and heartfelt tone, as though an elder was consoling her. The Overlord is already the fiancé of Lord Demon Hall. This time Devil Head City's joyous event is the Overlord and Lord Demon Hall's marriage ceremony. Yi Qingluo's heart thumped hard. Her pair of long and narrow eyes unconsciously contracted. Her slender brows creased into a bundle. Say that again. No matter how many times I say it, it won't change the fact. Zhu Sha looked at Yi Qingluo's devastated look as her voice weakened by quite a bit. Great beauty. The Overlord is a god that ordinary people like us are unable to come into contact with. In this world, only Devil Palace Lord is barely worthy of the Overlord. Yi Qingluo interrupted its words. When did they announce their marriage and when did the wedding ceremony start? Zhu. Just a few hours ago. Lord Devil Palace personally announced to the world that he sincerely invites the devil cultivators of the 3 continents of the Devil Domain to head to Devil Head City to participate in the marriage ceremony. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The wedding ceremony is in 3 days. Beauty, are you thinking of snatching the bride? A few hours ago? In other words, she and Dmo Xian had just arrived at the Devil's Domain. Dmo Xian went over to that whatever Lord Devil Palace? This so-called wedding ceremony. It was probably the wishful thinking of the Demon Hall. However, why didn't Xian react? Moreover, he still hadn't returned to the demonic forest to look for her? Could it be trapped in the Devil Hall? Yi Qingluo's squinted eyes were filled with a chilly intent. She pursed her pink lips slightly as she abruptly stood up. Let's go to Devil Head City. She couldn't wait for Xian here any longer. Xian must have met with trouble. Zhu was so frightened that it went into a daze. Great beauty, you really want to snatch the bride? You're crazy. 7th young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5062. No matter how powerful you are, you can't go snatch Lord Demon Hall's marriage. Furthermore, even if you go snatch the marriage, the Overlord will not let you. Big beauty, calm down. Don't be rash. Zhu jumped up and bit Yi Qingluo's robe. The young lady's pink dress was already tattered. After being bitten, another large piece of cloth was ripped off, revealing the young lady's fair arm. Yi Qingluo waved Zhu away. Either lead the way to Devil Head City or you stay here. Big beauty, have you forgotten what I said earlier? Zhu jogged along beside Yi Qingluo as she looked up at her. The only lady who can barely match up to the Overlord is only Lord Demon Hall. It's normal for them to get married. Even if you go to Devil Head City, what can you do? No. Yi Qingluo suddenly stopped in her tracks as she glanced sideways. Her long and narrow eyes were filled with Zhu. Zhu went into a blank. What? You're wrong. Yi Qingluo's pink lips moved slightly as her words entered her ears clearly. In this world, the only person who can stand beside him can only be I. That clear voice was like an orchid. When Zhu met her eyes, she was stunned. The words of persuasion were at the tip of its tongue, but it couldn't be said out. Just for a moment. It actually believed what she said. Will you lead the way? Yi Qingluo asked. Zhu lowered its pig head. Even if I lead the way, by the time you rush to Devil Head City, the wedding ceremony would have already ended. You won't be able to snatch the marriage. Yi Qingluo's slender brows rose slightly as her half-squinted eyes stared at it with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Her pink lips curled up into an arc, adding a hint of unspoken threat. If I didn't remember wrongly, when you charged towards me, that speed was much faster than ordinary magical beasts. Yi Qingluo's smile deepened, so be aware of it. Zhu, I'm a human, not a pig. The last of the last. Yi Qingluo sat on Zhu's back as she charged out of the devil forest. Zhu's body was covered with hedgehog-like fur, and it could be controlled with its will. When Yi Qingluo was sitting on Zhu's back, the hairs that looked like steel needles were actually extremely soft. Actually, it would be better if Cinnabar were to hide in the Death Devil Forest. After all, it still bore the reputation of being a sinner who stole Madame Huangxi's devil flame flower. Once they appeared in the main city, he was afraid that Madame Huangxi's subordinates would chase him relentlessly. It didn't matter if Cinnabar stole the demon flame flower or not, as long as it was related to the demonic flame flower. Even Zhu had to take the blame for this and pay the price with her life. But Zhu still followed beside Yi Qingluo. Zhu had a very strong intuition. Perhaps it was the intuition of a pig. As long as he followed this girl, its life would definitely undergo earth-shattering changes. He would die either way. Why not follow her and look for miracles? Zhu's speed was indeed very fast. In just a short while they had already left the Death Devil Forest. After leaving the forest, Yiqing Luo noticed it. The houses in the demon domain were all similar to ancient castles. As far as the eye could see, it was filled with castles. Zhu Sha carried her on its back as it chose a secluded path to avoid the crowd. But it was still not enough. First Madame Huangxi's power. The guards who chased after them to the Death Devil Forest had yet to return. Madame's residence sent more people to wait outside the Death Devil Forest. Chapter 50-63. They had just exited the Devil Forest for less than an hour's journey. Zhu Sha was blocked by a team of ferocious-looking Devil Domain people. Zhu Sha, I've not expected you to have such ability to escape from the fourth team. The Devil Domain people stared at Zhu Sha as they ridiculed. But, even if you manage to escape from the fourth team, you will not be able to escape from our third team's palm. Zhu Sha was surrounded by that team, and could only stop in her tracks. It lowered its voice as it explained to Yiqing Luo. Madame Huangxi's guards are split into 8 small teams and this man is the third team's team leader. Zhu Sha's voice became softer. The surrounding Devil Domain people were nearby and could hear it. The third team's team leader's vision fell onto Zhu Sha's back, on the young lady. His eyes, which had thick eyeliner on them, revealed an evil smirk. That eyes were filled with a naked expression. Zhu Sha is not bad. You didn't forget to bring a woman along when escaping. The third team's team leader stared at Yiqing Luo as he sized her up. This woman looks not bad. He looked at Zhu Sha. Hand this woman over to me and I will leave your corpse in one piece. How about that? Third team leader, I didn't steal the magic flame flower. Zhu Sha's body tensed up as the porcupine hair stood up. But the place where Yiqing Luo was sitting was still soft. Zhu Sha's tone was infuriated. Let me see Madame, I will explain to her personally. Want to see Madame? The third team's team leader laughed coldly. You white-eyed pig, are you even fit to see Madame? I have never betrayed Madame. Zhu Sha's pig face flushed red from anger. But, so what? The third team's team leader's eyes gave a sinister smile. I said you stole it then. It's you. Zhu Sha went into a blank as his pig eyes widened. So it's you. The third team's team leader's thick eyeliner eyes curved into a slit as he grinned widely. Zhu Sha, as a demon pig, be a good pig. He suddenly charged toward Zhu Sha as he stretched out his hand to grab Yiqing Luo's shoulder. This woman, I will help you. Keep her. Third team leader, you don't touch her. Zhu Sha was so scared that its pig body trembled as it shrank backwards, trying to escape with Yiqing Luo. However, they were tightly surrounded by 3 teams of guards. The leader of the third team laughed sinisterly. Trash, you should act like trash. He lifted his leg and kicked Zhu Sha, and that sharp fingernails directly clasped onto Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Crack. There was the sound of bones breaking. What followed was the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground. Dust flew all over the ground. Zhu Sha kept her eyes tightly shut. However, the pain that he had imagined did not come. It was standing on the ground. Then what was that thing that was thrown out just now? Cinnabar opened her eyes. He saw the leader of Team 3 lying on the ground in a sorry state, clutching his hand and screaming in pain. Zhu Sha was still a little confused. Then he heard the young man's ruthless voice from above him. Get lost. Every word he said was filled with boundless killing intent. The ragged and battered-looking girl jumped down from Zhu Sha's back. Pink dress, even though it was tattered. It was hard to conceal the young lady's innate noble temperament. Her narrow eyes fell onto the leader of Team 3. Call your madam over. Yiqing Luo's heart was burning with anxiety. She only wanted to run over to Devil Head City to save her Xian. She might not be able to make it in time. Now she was blocked by the third team's leader. Where would she have the patience to let him act cool? Chapter 50-64. Who are you? The third team leader crawled up from the ground in pain as he gritted his teeth and stared at Yiqing Luo. Is Madam someone whom you can meet whenever you want to? Yiqing Luo's eyes turned even colder. She lifted her feet and walked towards the third team leader. Her footsteps were slow and her tattered pink dress lifted the hem of her dress, like peach blossom petals flying in the air. She was obviously a young lady with no expression on her face. Even her footsteps were light. But the third team leader only felt that from the moment the young lady walked towards him. A strong oppressive feeling came rushing towards him, pressuring him so much that he almost couldn't breathe. It was this young lady who created this oppressive feeling. She was using her imposing manner to force him. The third team leader was able to become the third team leader, so naturally he wasn't a fool. Being arrogant in front of Zhu Sha. That was because Zhu Sha was someone he could casually play with. But this young lady was obviously not an ordinary person. The third team leader was so frightened that he retreated backwards, not daring to look at Yiqing Luo. The young lady's brows squinted slightly as her long and narrow eyes flashed with an eerie cold glint. The third team leader retreated. She closed in. Her voice was filled with an irresistible chill. I don't have much patience. I still have use for this pig now. If your first madam's residence insists on pestering me, then now. Let's settle this problem once and for all. Settling it directly was the fastest way. She didn't want to be stopped and chased away time and time again along the way. Although it might be faster if she changed to another mount. But this was Yiqing Luo's first time coming to the Devil's Domain. Who knew where she would be able to find a mount? This Zhu Sha, although it was timid and had a cheap mouth. But the good thing was that his character was not bad. At least when it mentioned Madame Huang Xi, its eyes were sparkling and filled with gratitude, which was absolutely not an act. So she had to settle the magic flame flower in the shortest time possible. Then she had to rush towards Devil Head City. The third team leader staggered as he fell onto the ground. The people from the Devil's Domain who were brought along immediately surrounded the third team leader. Yiqing Luo condescendingly looked down at the third team leader. Or are you intending to die? When the last word was said, in the young lady's hand, a gleaming sharp broadsword appeared. A slender and delicate young lady holding a broadsword. It looked extremely discordant. However, the girl's aura completely suppressed the evil aura of the broadsword. The faces of the leaders of the third team darkened and changed constantly. Where did Zhu Sha find such a powerful helper? Miss, I advise you not to help that pig. It was the sinner who had stolen Madame's magic flame flower. If you help it, you'll be going against Madame. The leader of the third team still wanted to struggle. If you offend Madame, you will be hated by everyone in the infernal region. Are you sure you still want to help Zhu Sha? Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes lifted upward slightly. Her pink lips were clearly curled into a smile. However, it exuded a chilling aura. It doesn't matter if it stole it or not. The important thing is whether Madame believes it or not. Yiqing Luo bent over slightly and closed the distance between her and the third team leader. So, let me see Madame. The leader of Team 3 shrunk back. At the moment when Yiqing Luo bent down, a murderous look suddenly appeared in his eyes. He suddenly sprung up from the ground as he clawed towards Yiqing Luo. Crack. Another crisp sound was heard. Following that was the third team leader's miserable shriek. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Chapter 50-65. Once again he was sent flying out. This time he didn't have the energy to climb up. He laid on the ground, totally unable to move. Only his heavy panting proved that he was still alive. Yiqing Luo retracted her leg and squinted her eyes as she glanced at him indifferently. There wasn't any warmth in her eyes. She carried her broadsword as she walked over directly. She raised her hand and was about to slash downwards. Spare him. A crisp voice was heard. Immediately after, an extremely majestic force flew towards him. Yiqing Luo seemed to be prepared as she retracted her hand and took a step back, avoiding that force. The third team leader's eyes shone with a ray of hope when he heard that voice. He tried his best to raise his head as he looked towards the direction of the voice. Yiqing Luo also retreated to a safe place as she crossed her arms and casually looked over. At the corner of a secluded path. First, a lady dressed in a plain brocade robe, who looked like a servant girl, walked out. Following that, A soft carriage with floating gauze entered everyone's eyes. The 4 people in the carriage were definitely not ordinary people. Their footsteps were steady, and even though they were carrying the carriage, they couldn't hear their footsteps. In the gauze, a slender figure could be seen indistinctly. When they saw that servant girl, the 3 teams of Devil Domain's people all revealed a joyous expression as they hurriedly shouted, "Sister Hylon! Sister Hylon! Quickly save the 3rd team leader!" The servant girl and the carriage were all unhurriedly heading towards this side. When Zhu Sha saw that side, its entire pig went into a daze. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at it. "This is Madame Huang Xi, right?" Zhu Sha didn't reply, but the expression in that pair of pig eyes had already explained everything. Over there, the servant girl who was addressed as Hylon was already nearing the carriage. Finally, it stopped at. The 3 teams were about 3 steps away. The carriage landed on the ground. The gauze floated. Hylon opened her mouth. "This young lady, if there isn't any deep hatred, there's no need to take his life, right?" Her tone was very calm, and without any intention to question. Yiqing Luo calmly replied, "If he hadn't blocked the way, I wouldn't have the time to deal with him." Her gaze looked directly towards the carriage. "Is it Madame Huang Xi?" "Impudent." Hylon frowned and raised her voice. "Miss, you hurt the guards of Madame's mansion and are still so rude. Do you think that Madame is kind and won't do anything to you?" Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled slightly as she casually sneered. "What you said is rather interesting. Only your Madame's guards are allowed to hurt people, but I'm not allowed to defend myself? If he's injured, it's because he's not as skilled as me. How can you blame me for not going easy on him? Not to mention being rude? This is called rudeness." "I'm afraid you haven't seen me being rude before." Madame Huang Xi was the faith of the Devil Phoenix continent. She did not want to become enemies with Madame Huang Xi. After all, he still wanted to go to Devil Head City to kidnap the bride. She wanted to have a proper discussion with Madame Huang Xi about the Devil Flame Flower. But that didn't mean that she had to lower her voice and comply with him. This was the first time Harland had seen such an arrogant person. Before he could finish, a clear and elegant voice came from the carriage, interrupting Hylon's words. "Hylon, back off." That elegant voice sounded soft and gentle, but the tone was filled with nobility and majesty. Hylon immediately kept quiet as she retreated to the side of the carriage. The gauze was lifted by a fair hand. Following that, a graceful figure walked out. Chapter 5066. The lady was dressed in a dark blue pleated dress. There weren't many patterns, but the fabric and design was dignified. Just one look. She knew. The lady's status was respected. The minute she appeared, her vision fell onto Yiqing Luo. That pair of gentle but not elegant beautiful eyes squinted slightly, as though she was examining Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was also sizing her up. The lady in front of her looked very young, about 24 or 25 years old, but her age should be around 30. When she was looking at her, there wasn't any malicious intent in her eyes. Clear and moist, it wouldn't make one feel disgusted. "Madame Huang Xi." Yiqing Luo directly opened her mouth. "The only thing that could make you come over personally is Magic Flame Flower." Madame Huang Xi's eyes were gentle as she pouted her red lips. "You already knew. I was by your side." It wasn't a question, but an affirmation. What Yiqing Luo did to the 3rd team leader. Actually, right from the start, she had never thought of taking the 3rd team leader's life. But to force them out from the dark. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. "Since you know, then you should know the reason." She stretched out her hand and lifted the pig by her feet. "Actually, you already knew that Zhu Sha was framed, right?" Madame Huang Xi took a look at Zhu Sha. Her eyes were still gentle. "Zhu Sha is a good person, he knows how to repay kindness, so I believe him." "Since that's the case, there's no problem," Yiqing Luo said. "Withdraw the order to pursue Zhu Sha. Don't let Madame's people pester us." Mississippi Madame Huang Xi wasn't unhappy with Yiqing Luo's attitude. She laughed lightly. "No matter what, you have to give an explanation for the loss of the Magic Flame Flower. Even if I believe Zhu Sha, I still need evidence, isn't it?" Madame Huangxi's voice was calm and peaceful. He did not have the slightest hint of being high and mighty or imposing. It was like a very normal person saying normal things. Because of Zhusha, Miss has already killed the 4th team leader and the other guards. She continued. There's a reason for this, and this matter isn't your responsibility, so. Miss, please return Zhusha back to Madame's residence. If you find any evidence, I will definitely protect Zhusha. This Madame Huangxi was something. First he expressed his belief in Cinnabar, then he mentioned that he needed evidence. Then he pointed out her mistakes and used the excuse of not being calculative to make her feel guilty about it. Then he gave the Cinnabar to Madame Huangxi. Yi Qingluo's curiosity was piqued. Zhusha, this pig, looked like a very ordinary demon pig. Even the demon pig that could transform into a human. But there was no need for Madame Huangxi to appear personally, right? Could it be? What other secrets were hidden behind the Cinnabar? Yi Qingluo took a look at Zhusha. The expression on Zhusha's face was very complicated. Obviously, he understood Madame Huangxi's intentions. Initially, when Madame Huangxi said that she believed in it, it felt a little strange. It was still very excited. Then he heard the back part. The pig was dumbfounded. After all, Madame Huangxi still did not believe it. Yi Qingluo stared at Madame Huangxi for some time and suddenly opened her mouth. Madame's countenance is outstanding and your temperament is outstanding, but your brows and eyes are green, and even if your lips are dyed with rouge, it is unable to conceal the dark green within. Her line of sight then fell onto Madame Huangxi's waist. Although there's nothing unusual with Madame's walk, but her waist isn't straight. It should be due to the accumulation of poison in her body, exceeding the limits of her body. Chapter 50-67. Does Madame Huangxi feel short of breath every day? Especially when you're walking, your body and mind feel heavy, unable to move an inch? Following Yi Qingluo's words, Madame Huangxi and Hailan's expressions had a subtle change. Until they heard the last sentence. Madame Huangxi's pair of elegant eyes flashed past a sharp cold glint. It disappeared in a flash. She paused for a moment as her pupils contracted. Miss is a doctor? No, I'm just a pharmacist. Yi Qingluo smiled faintly. If Madame doesn't mind, I can help Madame to take a look at the accumulated poison in your body. Huangxi Fu Rao's eyes flashed with a strange glint. Hailan frowned as he spoke in a low voice. Madam, you can't trust this lass. So many doctors and pharmacists are unable to do it. How could a lass like her do it? Madame Huangxi muttered to herself for a moment before spitting out a word. All right. Madam. Hailan. Yi Qingluo's pink lips rose as she smiled faintly. Of course, I have a condition. Madame Huangxi replied. If Miss is really able to resolve my fate for so many years, I will agree to any condition. Madame thinks too highly of me. Yi Qingluo shook her head. I'm not sure if I can completely resolve the poison in Madame's body. Before she could finish her words, Hailan had already cried out sharply. Madam, she's a liar. You must not use your own body as a joke. You can't trust her. Hailan. Huangxi Fu Rao calmly glanced at Hailan, stopping his words. Her vision looked towards Yi Qingluo. Then what condition do you want to discuss with me? I can guarantee that you can at least live for a period of time. Yi Qingluo's brows rose slightly as her voice was firm and decisive. Madame Huangxi laughed lightly. Her elegant temperament was like a blooming orchid. She asked, Then what's your condition? I need Cinnabar. Yi Qingluo replied. Cinnabar? Madame Huangxi was slightly astonished. Why does Miss like Cinnabar? Madam, because she's so daring. She actually wants to go to Devil Head City to kidnap the bride. Zhu Sha jumped next to Huangxi Fu Rao and directly betrayed Yi Qingluo. She wants me to bring her to Devil Head City. Madame Huangxi was slightly stunned. Bride kidnapping? She seemed to have come to a realization. 3 days from now, it will be the wedding ceremony of the Lord of the Devil Hall and Dizun Great Rao. Are you thinking of snatching Dizun away? Zhu Sha nodded her pig head repeatedly. Madam, you also find it unbelievable, right? Why is she so stubborn? to actually want to snatch a man from Lord Demon Palace. If you don't know how, then don't say anything. Yi Qingluo casted a glance at Zhu Sha. I can ask Madame Huangxiai for you, and I can also abandon you. It's not that I can't do without you. She said. I'm going to kidnap the bride because I want a venerable sovereign. It has nothing to do with the demonic palace. What did he mean by snatching someone from the Devil Hall? A Xian was originally hers. She was merely returning the Devil Hall to its rightful owner. Madame Huangxiai looked at Yi Qingluo in astonishment. This girl was really too direct and bold. She had openly expressed her desire for the venerable sovereign's great mercy. If this got out, he was afraid that something big would happen. Madame Huangxiai sighed softly. Miss, the venerable sovereign's great mercy is indeed the idol of all the ladies in the world. But 3 days later, the venerable sovereign is going to marry Lord Demon Palace, so you should give up. The young lady's long and narrow eyes curved into an arc at this instance, revealing a sharp glint. Marriage, have I agreed to it? Chapter 50-68. The young girl, who was as pretty as a painting, clearly had the appearance of a girl next door, but at this moment, she exuded a noble and gorgeous aura. It was a kind of innate nobility, a nobility that emanated from the bones. It was as if he stood above the 9 heavens and looked down on all living beings. Madame Huangxi's heart skipped a beat. From the moment he saw this girl, Madame Huangxi knew that this young lady was not as simple as she looked on the surface. Especially those eyes. It seemed to have gathered all the light in the world. Because of this, when the young girl vowed that she could detoxify the poison without the help of the demonic flame flower, Lin Fan's eyes widened. Somehow he wanted to believe her for once. And at this moment, looking at the girl's expression, she didn't seem to be joking at all. Perhaps, this girl and that Lord Dizun really had a relationship. This thought caused Madame Huangxi's expression to change in an instant. She restrained her emotions and said, If you want to go to Devil Head City, why don't you come with me? She paused for a moment, then continued, I happen to be heading to Devil Head City to attend this wedding. If you follow me, we should be able to arrive before the wedding ceremony. In other words, if Yi Qingluo wanted to go to the wedding venue, if he followed her, he would be able to reach it. After all, it was the wedding ceremony of Lord Devil Hall and Lord Dizun. This was a big deal. Ordinary people were not allowed to enter the venue of the ceremony. Even if Yi Qingluo reached Devil Head City, she still had to think of a way to enter the wedding ceremony. If he followed Madame Huangxi, it would save him a lot of trouble. Yi Qingluo didn't put on airs, then I'll have to trouble Madame. It's not troublesome at all, we're just taking what we need. Madame Huangxi smiled elegantly. She had no intention of hiding her motive. This way it would be easier for them to work together. Only with a request could both parties achieve stability. The curtain fell on this farce. Zhu Sha was still a little confused. Why all of a sudden did the beauty team up with Madame? Wouldn't he be useless then? Zhu Sha instantly shut herself up. Zhu Sha, why are you still standing there? The clear and melodious voice of a young girl entered Zhu Sha's ears. The young lady who had followed Madame Huangxi far ahead was now looking at her. His tone was impatient. However, there was not the slightest impatience on his face. It blinked its pig eyes and immediately dashed towards Yi Qingluo. Then she heard Madame Huangxi say, Zhu Sha, his brain is not very bright. How did Miss fall for him? Yes, he is indeed a bit stupid. Yi Qingluo nodded. Who asked me to only meet this pig in the Devil Forest, so I can only reluctantly accept it. Zhu Sha. Piercing to the heart. It wasn't just this girl who disliked him. Even Madame Huangxi despised him. If you need a mount, I can arrange it for you. Madame Huangxi said. Zhu Sha's pig eyes widened as his little eyes looked at Yi Qingluo nervously. If she wanted to replace him, he would definitely be treated as the criminal who stole the devil flame flower, and be locked up. Just as Madame said. Yi Qingluo smiled slightly. Zhu Sha is a good one and knows how to repay kindness. Rather than having a mount whose background I don't know, why not let it follow me at least? It's trustworthy. Zhusha was instantly moved to tears. Then it heard the girl's next words, forcing its tears back. She said, "Moreover, if you're hungry on the way, you can eat a roasted pig or something." Zhusha. Till now, she still hadn't forgotten to roast him. He wasn't a pig. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5069. Madame's Residence. Yi Qingluo was treated as a VIP and was placed in the courtyard next to Madame Huangxi's. She even specially assigned a few maids to wait on her. Yi Qingluo directly rejected them. She only wanted the cinnabar and a young lass who knew about medicine, Haitang. After all, they were taking what they needed. Moreover, the other party was the first madam with great authority. If she didn't show some sincerity, there would be some friction in this cooperation. After she had settled down, Yi Qingluo directly checked Madame Huangxi's pulse. After a round of trouble, she made another list of medicinal herbs and asked Haitang to take it. Madame Huangxi was extremely cooperative. Hailan tried to dissuade her several times, but was stopped by Madame Huangxi's gaze. Madame Huangxi's poison was indeed like what the cinnabar said. It had settled in her body, and after a long time, it had completely seeped into her bone marrow. Even if she used the method of detoxification to expel the remaining poison, it was of no use. Furthermore, what made Yi Qingluo astonished was, she had no clue about Madame Huangxi's poison. This was the first time she met with a poison which she couldn't resolve. Yi Qingluo was busy over here. Madame's residence was in an uproar. No one believed it. Based on Yi Qingluo's age, how could she possibly cure Madame's body? The Devil Region's doctors, pharmacists, even the Devil Region's #1 devil doctor were all helpless against Madame's poison. What could a young lady do? Not to mention, there were quite a number of doctors from the outside world, who were also helpless. Where did this young lady get her confidence from? She was simply a liar. But unfortunately, that young lady seemed to have bewitched their madam. Or could it be? Madame had already given up hope, and wanted to give it a try if there was a chance. Anyway, she allowed that young lady to do whatever she wanted. And she was extremely cooperative. All the maids and servants in Madame's residence were frightened out of their wits. After Haitang had collected all the medicinal herbs, Yi Qingluo directly asked someone to throw all the medicinal herbs into a bathtub, and asked them to boil a few buckets of hot water. Following that, she asked Madame Huangxi to go into the inner hall to perform acupuncture. The minute she heard acupuncture, Hailan couldn't sit still. "Madam, this young lady. This is just the first time you've met her. This is really not right." At the very least, he had to give them a chance to investigate the young lady's identity. Yi Qingluo didn't have much emotions as she looked at Madame Huangxi and said, "If Madame doesn't believe me, then it's not that I didn't fulfill the requirements of our transaction." A person of Madame Huangxi's status, even if he didn't trust her, it was normal. Yi Qingluo had no intention to get angry. She put away the silver needles and said faintly, "Then go directly to the medicinal bath." "No problem." Madame Huangxi smiled and shook her head. "I'll listen to misarrangements." Madame Huangxi had already said so. No matter how anxious Harland was, she did not dare to stop him. In the inner hall, Yi Qingluo speedily performed acupuncture on Madame Huangxi. The silver needles she used were all special silver needles that she had refined together with her teacher, the ghost doctor, in the Nirvana realm. When the silver needle pierced Madame Huangxi's skin, the silver needle instantly turned black. Yi Qingluo's eyes congealed slightly. "Madam, the poison in your body." She hesitated for a moment before continuing. "It doesn't seem like it's just the residual poison that's accumulated in her body." "Don't overdo it." Yi Qingluo didn't continue speaking. Based on Madame Huangxi's intelligence, naturally he understood the underlying meaning in Yi Qingluo's words. Not only the residual poison. This meant that there were other poisons in Madame Huangxi's body. Trash seventh young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash seventh young mistress. Lord Dizun, Please be gentler with your love. Chapter 50-70. Moreover, it wasn't the poison in Jiuyu's body. Rather, it was a recent poison. When Madame Huang Xi heard this, there was no surprise on her face. She slightly lowered her eyes and chuckled softly. I've let you see a joke. Yi Qingluo shook her head. While swiftly applying the needles, she said lightly, You and I are strangers before today. It's not to the extent of being a joke. After inserting the last needle into the acupoint, she withdrew her hand and continued, But you should have noticed it long ago. Madame Huang Xi closed her beautiful eyes slightly. When those silver needles pierced into her acupoints, it was actually very painful. However, her expression didn't change at all, as though she was already used to such pain. However, between her brows, there was an unresolvable melancholy. It made her beautiful face look even more charming and pitiful. She was the first lady, who was in a high position and had great power. Actually, it wasn't as enviable as he had imagined. Madame Huang Xi laughed softly. From the matter of the devil flame flower being stolen, I can roughly guess it. She lowered her eyes, and the melancholy in her eyes deepened. But I still don't want to believe it. Yi Qingluo didn't say much. This was Madame Huang Xi's personal matter. It was not convenient for her to ask further. Wait for the time it takes to burn a stick of incense. Then Madame can directly soak in the medicinal bath. Yi Qingluo stood up and walked to the side of the bathtub. The bathtub was custom-made with special silver equipment. The boiling water gave off a white mist. On the side, there was a long table with all kinds of medicinal herbs. Yi Qingluo followed the order, and placed the medicinal herbs into the bathtub in an orderly manner. Watching the clear water gradually turn turbid, a rich medicinal fragrance pervaded the entire room. Madame Huang Xi tilted her head slightly and looked at the young lady who had a calm expression and was doing her work seriously. In her beautiful eyes, there seemed to be some distant thoughts spreading out. He didn't know if it was because of the herbs, or if the girl had used some other method. When the herbs fell into the bathtub, the water was originally boiling hot. It instantly boiled over. Wave after wave rolled forward. Listening to the gurgling sound of the water, his nose was filled with the strong and bitter smell of medicine. Madame Huang Xi's heart gradually calmed down. She glanced sideways at Yi Qingluo as she spoke out in a low voice. Miss, you say, how much longer do I have left to live? It depends on you whether you want to live or not. Yi Qingluo replied indifferently. Heh. Madame Huang Xi snorted and closed her eyes again. Yes, it depends on whether I want to live or not. She said nothing more. Yi Qingluo didn't say anything. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Yi Qingluo pulled out all the black silver needles and placed them into the medicine box that she had prepared earlier. Madam, soak for 4 hours and you can get up. After she finished speaking, she left the room. Inside the medicine box was a medicinal solution that was specially used to decompose toxins. The silver needles were filled with Madame Huang Xi's poison. She took the opportunity to study what kind of poison it was. Back at the courtyard, Yi Qingluo headed straight into the room and started researching. Zhu Sha looked at Yi Qingluo's busy figure as she mumbled softly. Aren't you in a hurry to snatch the bride from Devil Head City? Although, if you follow Madame Huang Xi, you can use the magic ship to reach Devil Head City on the same day, but you should at least be anxious. Haiteng pulled Zhu Sha back. Miss Mu is also thinking for Madame's health. Since Madame has agreed to let her reach the membrane vegetables earlier, then she will definitely be able to reach there. Her voice wasn't soft when she said this. Apparently, she specially said it out for Yi Qingluo to hear. Chapter 50-71. Her motive was to hope that Yi Qingluo would try her best to help Madame Huang Xi resolve the poison. Since Madame Huang Xi chose to believe in Yi Qingluo, now everyone in Madame's residence could only place their hopes on Yi Qingluo. Outside the door, Zhu Sha and Haiteng's conversation. Yi Qingluo heard it all. His fingers that were holding the silver needle tightened a little. Devil Head City. She naturally wanted to rush over to Devil Head City to look for Ah Xian. Her Ah Xian, she wanted to find out the truth. How did the news of Lord Demon Hall and Overlord's marriage spread out? She was most worried about. Had something happened to Ah Xian? She believed in Ah Xian, and absolutely believed in the relationship between them. But this matter, since this news had happened, there must be a reason behind it. No matter how anxious he was, he could not help it. Right now, she could only wait for Madame Huang Xiai to head over to Devil Head City together. But before this, she must gain Madame Huang Xi's trust. Based on Madame Huang Xi's status and power in the Devil Domain, with Madame Huang Xi's help, after entering Devil Head City, it would be more convenient. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath as she cast aside all the messy thoughts in her mind. She must be serious and concentrate on researching the composition of this poison. For hours later, Yiqing Luo was still buried in the table full of bottles and jars. Suddenly she heard 2 hurried footsteps coming from outside the courtyard. Before the person arrived, the voice was heard. Miss, this medicinal bath of yours is too magical." The usually graceful and elegant Madame Huang Xi's eyes were sparkling as she walked into the room quickly. She was only wearing a simple single piece of clothing. Her wet hair was scattered behind her as it wet her robe, but she didn't mind it at all. She walked into the room and her vision fell onto Yiqing Luo. "Miss, I feel refreshed now. My body is light as a feather, without any pain at all." She spoke very quickly as she was extremely agitated. A pair of beautiful eyes that were as elegant as orchids were filled with a joyful smile. Hailan, who was by the side, was supporting Madame Huang Xiai as she looked at Yiqing Luo with a strange expression. But when Yiqing Luo looked at her, Hailan's eyes turned red as she said, "Miss Mu, it's all thanks to you." After the two entered the room, Harland immediately closed the door. She said, "Ever since Madame forcefully suppressed the poison, her body has been deteriorating day by day. Now it's almost impossible for her to move. But Madame is the Madame of the Demon Phoenix continent. Her existence is the hope of the Demon Phoenix continent. She cannot let others know that her body is about to wither. Whenever she appears in front of outsiders, she has to endure great pain to make herself appear normal. But today, Hailan knelt on the ground with a plop. "Thank you, Miss Mu. Thank you, Miss Mu." When Yiqing Luo heard Hailan's words, there wasn't much change in her expression. She allowed Hailan to kneel on the ground and turned her gaze towards Madame Huang Xiai. Madame Huang Xiai, who just came out of the medicinal bath, looked refreshed. Her beautiful and elegant face was stained with a healthy blush. The space between his brows wasn't as dark as before. His body also straightened up a lot. Although it was not a complete recovery, but compared to her previous state, it was much better than he had expected. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up into a smile. In the future, soak for 4 to 6 hours according to the prescription every day. Chapter 50-72. Madame Huang Xi's eyes were filled with agitation as she clenched her fists tightly. "Miss, if you have any requests, just tell me. I will do my best to get it done for you." Yiqing Luo looked at Madame Huang Xi's smiling face. It looked like, in Madame Huang Xi's heart, she already had the answer she wanted. Who didn't want to continue living? But previously, there was no hope at all, and she had to shoulder the entire Devil Phoenix continent's hope. She gave hope to so many people, but who could support her hope? So Madame Huang Xiai was very tired. Adding on the pain of the poison corroding her body, she couldn't bear it. But now, Yiqing Luo gave her hope. The hope to live on. When hope came, how could she not want to hold on to it? Facing Madame Huang Xi's words, Yiqing Luo didn't stand on ceremony as she calmly nodded her head. "I hope Madame will remember what you said today. When we reach Devil Head City, I will definitely need to trouble Madame Huang Xiai for something." Madame Huang Xi's brows were filled with a smile. "Even if Miss really wants to snatch the bride, I will not refuse." "Madam." When Hailan heard this, she immediately spoke out softly. She was still kneeling on the ground and was completely ignored by Yiqing Luo. At this moment she couldn't help but opened her mouth. That is, Devil Lord. If Madame Huang Xi wanted to help this young lady snatch the bride, then she would definitely offend. Devil Lord. She took a look at Yi Qing Luo and carefully looked at Madame Huang Xi. Madam, although Miss Mu can cure you, but Devil Phoenix Continent's current situation is already in a precarious situation. If you offend Devil Lord at this moment, I'm afraid it will be disadvantageous to Madam. Highland's tone was heavy, filled with worry for Madame Huang Xi. I didn't say that I can cure Madam. Yi Qing Luo interrupted Highland's words. Her slender eyes rose slightly as she looked at Hailan faintly. The medicinal bath is only using medicinal herbs to expel the remaining poison in Madam's body. But there are simply too many poison in Madam's body. This method can only alleviate Madam's pain but not the root cause. Since you can't save the Madam, why should the Madam offend the Lord of the Demonic Palace for you? Hailan suddenly stood up from the ground, gritted her teeth, and angrily rebuked. Yi Qing Luo sneered. This maidservant of yours is really strange. I've said it from the start, it can only be delayed, not cured. Furthermore, she paused for a moment and changed the topic. When did I ask Madam to offend the Devil Lord for me? You. Indeed, the young girl didn't say anything. However, she had made a request with the help of Madam's kindness. Wasn't it because she wanted Madam to help her snatch Dizun from Lord Devil Hall? Harland. Madame Huang Xi's brows sunk slightly as she glanced at her coldly. Looks like this Madam has been spoiling you too much, to have developed such a rude character. Madame Huang Xi's voice was not considered strict, but it was filled with authority, causing Hailan's body to stiffen. Immediately, his legs went soft and he knelt on the ground. Scram. Go to the woodshed and burn for 2 days. Think about what you should do as a servant. Madame Huang Xi ordered coldly. Hailan still wanted to plead for leniency, but when she met Madame Huang Xi's icy cold beautiful eyes, all her words were stuck in her throat. In the end, she knelt on the ground aggrievedly, as her voice trembled slightly. This servant accepts punishment. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Dizun, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 50-73. Finishing her words, Hailan walked step by step towards the door, taking one step, stopping one step at a time. Extremely slow, as though she was waiting for Madame Huang Xi to call her back. But until she walked out of the room, Madame Huang Xi didn't say a word. After that, the room door slowly closed. Hailan's slender fingers clenched tightly as the expression on her face was covered with a layer of haze. She lowered her head as her peripheral vision swept past the tightly shut room door. In her eyes, there was a faintly discernible murderous intent spreading, but it was fleeting. She lowered her head as she left the courtyard. In the room, Yi Qing Luo pulled a redwood chair over as she sat down on another table with a tea set. Looks like Madam isn't that stupid. This sentence was indeed disrespectful. But Madame Huang Xi wasn't angry at all as she sat down in front of Yi Qing Luo with a smile. In Mrs. Eyes, am I very stupid? You can say so. Yi Qing Luo laughed lightly. Treating someone who harbors ill intentions as your confidant is indeed quite stupid. Madame Huang Xi's brows drooped as she gave a bitter laugh. That's right. I originally thought that she would be the person I trust the most in this lifetime, unfortunately. If it wasn't someone who was close to her, who else could do it without making a sound? What if he poisoned her? But now there was a sunset rain, who could actually detoxify her. Instantly she panicked. That was why, under the influence of a few sentences, she hurriedly exposed her motive. Ever since Madame Huang Xi's poison became more and more intense, almost emptying her body, all her affairs were handled by Hailan. Only when there were big matters would be passed to her. And she was already used to Hailan's service and care. But unknowingly, she let Hailan take charge of her life. Yi Qing Luo poured a cup of tea as she pushed it in front of Madame Huang Xi. Soak in the medicinal bath first. I will think of a way to research on the antidote. But everything will have to wait till I go to Devil Head City to investigate clearly before I can help you. Madame Huang Xi smiled slightly. I'm not in a hurry. I've already waited for so many years. A little more time doesn't matter. Her hand gently touched her face as her eyes sparkled brightly, as though it was starry. Now is already very good. I don't know how long it has been. I haven't been so relaxed. Her eyes were filled with warmth. She raised her eyes and looked at Yiqing Luo resolutely. Mu Yu, my life is saved by you. If there's anything you need help with, I will help you. The two looked at each other and smiled. This Madame Huang Xi was indeed an intelligent person. He also knew how to make the most suitable decision. From the moment she chose to believe in Yiqing Luo, he chose to believe everything that Yiqing Luo said. She had this kind of noble and elegant aura that seemed to look down on all living things. Since he had decided to go to Devil Head City to kidnap the bride, it must be because there was a story between her and Dizun. To be able to make such a haughty and arrogant young lady travel thousands of miles to Devil Head City, this was definitely not. It was all because of his infatuation with Dizun. The next morning, Madame Huang Xi's troops were ready to depart. By the time Yiqing Luo woke up, Zhu Sha led her to the open-air garden of the Madame's residence. Yiqing Luo saw a huge sail in the middle of the garden. That ship was astonishingly huge. It was 2 stories high. It looked noble and luxurious. A flag was raised high up in the sky. Under the complicated totem symbol, there was a huge phoenix word in flamboyant calligraphy. Zhu Sha saw Yiqing Luo staring at the ship and explained, "This is our transportation tool, the magic ship." Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.